Hello, welcome to episode 51. Can you believe it? Of Plat Chat Valorant. It's not, the show isn't called Can You Believe It? Plat Chat Valorant. That sounds like a game show from the early 2000s. Maybe we should make a game show from the early 2000s.
Spin-off Valorant show. We give away millions of dollars to our adoring fans.
Honestly, this week is a bit of a Can You Believe It as well. There's a lot of upset results. We could try and go through, you know, find someone that hasn't been watching the games.
TSM.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
TSM lost to Noble. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Is it A, 100 Thieves, B, Noble, or C, the Sentinels?
The Kansas City Pioneers.
To be fair, that's not really early 2000s trivia anymore. Unless you want to talk about like TSM with the odd one playing League of Legends, right?
Dude,
that TSM.
This guy is.
I have that reference now in my head and it's stuck.
Because a tier 3 the odd one sub, by the way.
Yeah. Was that the early 2000s as well?
I don't know. I don't think it was. I think it was like 2000. Like,
if you actually wanted to make a game
10.
show about the early 2000s in esports, you'd have to be going back to. I don't even know.
It would have to be like
Quake?
StarCraft. It would have to be like StarCraft and CS, pretty much. I think, and like maybe some Quake.
That's not even StarCraft. Like,
yeah, it's not even StarCraft.
I mean,
technically.
You're talking about Rafa and Cooler in the grand finals playing for a bag of Doritos and a mouse pad. I mean,
2009 is like the birth of Get Right. That's when he was born in CS. Like that is.
Yeah, we have to go really far back.
I thought you meant literally when he was born.
Yeah, like he was conceived by his parents.
By the way, those are two different things.
Yeah, hold on. That's
no, Get Right is actually he's like a platypus. He's just like it's just like instant. There's no germination cycle. He's just like in and out real quick. That's how he's so good at CS.
Playing.
Yeah.
Before we even get into this as well, before we get into the main show, did you guys see, talking about, you just reminded me because of the Get Right conversation, did you see that MBK is just grinding ranked? When he announced that he was coming into the game, I thought that maybe he had a team lined up or something like that. Apparently he's just getting sharp. He's like actually just playing a bunch of ranked to try and get into the game.
Yeah, I saw him. He was getting his foot in the door a little bit. He was getting his name in the conversation.
I saw him tweeting a boaster.
Oh, what did I didn't see that. I saw him. I saw something where he, like, Sean was live and he started reaching out to Sean. He's like, "Yo, Sean, who do you think I should be playing with?"
Oh, really?
And then Sean's like, "Damn, I mean, NBK. Oh shit!" And then he couldn't think of anyone. And then I don't know. He said, I can't even remember. He was like, Liquid or something. I don't know. It's just. He's trying to get his name in the ecosystem.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But maybe he could team up with Get Right. Thinking about that too.
Don't even start.
Maybe he can convince Get Right to come back to Valorant.
Yeah,
that would be sick.
Yeah, this was the reply that I really liked. I don't know. I've been reading a lot into MBK recently as well because I was interested in like the move over too. And like part of what made him so important in the scene was that he was so interconnected with other people in the French Valorant scene. Which, in the French CS scene, which that takes a while to build up those, like, not just like the networking ability to know that you mesh well with a bunch of different players and a bunch of different teams. That's a challenge. Would be interesting though.
He was on literally every French super team of all time. So I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. All right, into the actual topics that we had planned and prepped instead of talking about the odd one, Get Right, and MBK.
That's a sick lineup, honestly. Get the odd one
for
on
what game? For what game?
For Valorant.
Oh, for Valorant. Okay.
Yeah. You got a lurker, you got a support player, and you got a
League of Legends player.
Yeah, listen,
a jungler.
We've seen League of Legends players be very effective on Sova.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was Sassy a jungler? Yeah. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Anyway,
I don't have a clue.
This week was the week of upsets. By the way, VCT is going on as we speak. So some of what we talk about in this episode is going to be useless by the time you hear about it. And some of it is going to be useless by the time we're talking about it and then get later in the episode because there's games going on right now.
Only in Europe, though.
Yes.
So the NA...
Yeah, not NA.
Yeah.
Well,
NA,
thankfully, people only care about NA anyway, so we're going to talk about NA for the majority of the show, and then we'll talk about some Europe later when some results have been finalized. First of all, a lot of upsets this week. A lot of upsets. And that's got everyone asking, why did my favorite team lose? What happened?
This is a great... I mean, this is a great first topic.
My favorite team lost.
Yeah, I know. It is really unfortunate. Mine didn't, though. 100 Thieves made it through. But I think here's the pertinent question, right? Did my favorite team lose because... there could be a variety of reasons, right? Did my favorite team lose because was it an upset win? Valorant is a random game. We all know that at this point, right?
Yeah.
Valorant, super random. Was it an upset win from a worse tier 2 team? Is my team just not good anymore?
We lost all the pistols. There's no way we can win if we lost all the pistols.
Sure.
That's another
Or
classic.
Is it just there's really talented, the really talented tier 2 scene with a bunch of upcoming players coming up, and at this point we are just seeing them overtake the old guard. Are the old guard not playing enough tournaments?
What
These
do you think,
are all
Balla?
the questions.
Well, there could be the format is ass, right? Like that could be one too.
True.
I don't even think that this week, to be honest, like everybody's freaking out about upsets, blah 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 blah. But you look back at the last VCT and the same stuff happened.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
FaZe didn't make it through. Even Sentinels didn't make it through. There was so many. LG didn't make
Gen.G.
it. Immortals was barely making it. Gen.G didn't make it.
The top
Of course,
three all didn't
TSM
make it from the previous Masters.
Exactly. Honestly, you look at the list and it's even more like the list that couldn't or that possibly could have made it to Iceland compared to this one. And I feel like that one was more stacked. I don't think it's changed at all. I think we're just playing the same format, the single them best of threes that tends to do this. And NA is NA. It's how it is.
I think the results that tipped it over the edge were the ones that happened off stream, because it's off stream results for NA. By the way, that was a big oversight on the part of Nerd Street Gamers. I feel that they didn't actually get observers or in some cases casters to actually run these streams for the games. So you had many good games in the round of 16 that weren't streamed. You're out here feeling like a European fan. The NA fans were genuinely like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it just flipped. And then also, Nerd Street Gamers afterwards come out and they say, oh, don't worry, we'll make sure to broadcast all of the games in the future. And people are like, yay, NSG. It's like, they just took something away from you, gave it back to you, and now you're happy again. What is going on?
And I don't even think that they were planning on taking away the round of 16 game streams anyways. So they didn't even give anything back. I'm pretty sure that they were going to broadcast every game on the round of 16.
Well, I think they tweeted saying that for the next qualifier, they would broadcast many more games. I think that's what people were excited about. And it's like, they were already doing that. They just fucked up this time around. But yeah, there were a lot of... So the two big upsets, I think, that happened off stream, three actually, I suppose. But the TSM Noble game, I don't even consider to be that big of an upset, honestly. And NRG and Immortals losing off stream. And then Immortals also, in another tournament recently, just lost to EG as well. So if right at the bottom of the bracket, you've got two very unknown, as far as I'm concerned, teams making it through to the, round of 16, where you had a Virtuoso playing against Kansas City Pioneers, when everyone was expecting that to be an NRG Immortals game. I don't have anything to say about the matches, because like I said, they happened off stream, but these are... this side of the bracket is the thing I think that really tipped things over to being, it's upset central.
I mean, I think this is the match that is actually an upset. I mean, this is, I think out of all the games in this that are in this, honestly, it's kind of, maybe we should just go through all the games and just, is this an upset or is this not an upset? This one is an upset. I mean, this is a pretty crazy result. Virtuoso have been, as far as I know, they've been grinding with a core of like 4 players or so for a long time now, like since after First Strike, and then they just made one move, which I think was playing with Iconic. I mean, they're grinding in the tier 2, tier 3 space. They're not a bad team, but they're still, they're an unsigned amateur team, and respect to them for making it that far. Yeah.
And delivering a big upset result. That's the deepest they've ever gone in a big tournament like this. And obviously, because most of the time when you run into like a squad that's between, I don't know, NRG previously were like a tier 1.5 team, and they haven't even taken a map here. So that's a big one. But like I said, it happened off stream, so it's not like you can say what the problem was for NRG. It's no way of knowing.
No, we have the scoreboard, okay? Som, he went -5. I don't know about that.
Well, we should probably cut
actually -12 overall for the whole series. But
you can't even count, and you're doing analysis from the
No. If you go to Ascent, click on the Ascent tab. Click on the Ascent tab, Kurt. -5. That's right. You just don't
yeah.
have the complete data set, unlike me.
Well, no, you didn't have the complete data set. You were looking at one map.
No, you weren't delving into the specifics. Either way, I have no fucking idea what happened here.
I mean,
yeah,
we just. That is the. I mean, yeah, we just don't know what happened. The other game below this, though, the Kansas City Pioneers Immortals, that is not as much of an upset. I don't think.
I don't really know the Pioneers, so this to me was. I also, when you look at the players, a lot of those players have been hanging around and doing well.
Former United with some new guys, kind of.
J-Mo was
also,
on Immortals,
honestly, some of them former Immortals, right? Yeah, too.
Yeah, and that's another one of those teams that have just been hitting the grindstone. I mean, they've just been playing every single tournament. They're grinding really hard. A lot of their players who were, maybe lower down in our minds on the tier lists have been putting in the work and are looking much better on that team. So this is not as... I don't think this is a particularly crazy result when you go up again. I mean, it's a team that has been grinding hard with pretty much the same core of players for a long time now versus new roster amalgamation of random people that Immortals have put together again.
Yeah.
I don't think this one is really crazy.
Shot up playing a lot of Yoru as well. And we had the question who was actually going to end up playing for this roster, right? Because they had 6 people since they added Truro. And we didn't exactly know who was going to be picking up the Sova between Jonah P and Gangster. And it seems like Jonah's gone over to the Viper as well. So there are still some interesting notes to take away purely from just like the compositions and stuff. But overall, again, who the fuck knows what was going on in these games? Plus, Immortals losing to EG later on, it indicates that they probably wasn't a big upset result. That's just the level of Immortals right now.
Yeah, I will say, though, looking at that, the KCP Virtuoso game after, Kansas City Pioneers were clearly like a tier above Virtuoso. That is all I can really say about this game. And actually, they were looking good, KCP. I don't think they're... Yeah. They have some potential in this.
Based on like other results that both of those teams are playing in, though, they're actually like around the same level when you talk about like where they're getting to and which teams they're beating and whatnot. Like they're beating similar teams consistently, and I think this is the first time they actually play against each other. So it's kind of weird. I'm not surprised to see Immortals finally have like a massive failure in my mind, because they keep putting together like these picking up statistically good players and whatnot and trying to fit them into a team and a system and but eventually that's going to fail at some point. Eventually something is just not going to gel right within the team, or I don't know, because when they lose to EG, when they lose in the round of 32, you do have to question that, even though you can't watch it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can still tell that was not the expectation for Immortals, even though you can't tell what the result was going to be. I mean, the other big result that happened off stream, again, I'm not convinced that it's that major of an upset, but because of the community expectations for TSM, people are freaking about it too, is the TSM Noble game, where TSM ended up losing there as well. On top of that, though, we do have a whole segment dedicated to TSM, so I don't want to dive too deep into this.
Yeah,
but if you're a TSM fan and you're literally saying this question right here all day long, like, why did TSM lose? Why do they keep losing? What's going on? Don't worry, the doctors are coming. The doctors are coming. We're going to do a full diagnosis, full prognosis. It'll be perfectly fine.
Because they don't have the odd one. That's what it is. They don't have the odd one. I'm just stuck on that. Yeah. I mean, to be fair for the Immortals squad, though, like, yeah, it's not their expectations, but the roster is still so new.
Yeah.
Especially with yet another new addition that, like, who knows where they could get to with a little bit of time if they would lose those teams again in like the next VCT, right? If they were to play them again, if they were to repeat it, if we waited like some time, right? But obviously this is relatively pretty below expectations for them, I would say.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like you pull so many pieces out of the Jenga tower, eventually it will fall down. And when you take out a foundational piece from that tower, much more likely that it collapses.
Yeah, I think
you know what I mean?
The loss of Stanny is significant. It's not like the previous juggling of the roster. I feel like he really was.
Yeah,
like
it's not just like
piece.
flipping a duelist.
You took one
here.
from the bottom. There.
Right, yeah.
You took one from the bottom. Yeah, if you take Gangster as well, you can't take 2 pieces from the set. Well, actually, no, you can. That's how Jenga works, right? You could take the 2 outside pieces. You've taken the middle piece with Stanny.
If you're
I don't know.
skilled
I
like
don't have a great
Wyatt at
analogy here. The
Gen.G.
Gen.G analogy falls down a little bit. No pun intended.
This guy's
Sorry.
this guy's out of control.
I know.
Okay,
I can only apologize.
Who else got upset, or are they just not that good in the bracket?
Well,
I mean, you could. It wasn't in. It was streamed, so it was later on. But I would definitely feel like the C9 lost to Rise.
Oh, right.
Well, that's a little like
we have
the
a topic on
Masters
that.
1, Masters
We have a
2
topic
kind
for
of
that?
situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that is somewhat similar to what happened before, where it's a top 3 team from the previous qualifier. You know, they were third. They could have gone to Reykjavik. They were only a couple of rounds away from being able to make it over version 1, and they end up getting beaten here. I'm not going to say significantly, but they do end up getting beaten. So
Yeah.
I would still call this an upset. There have been some upsets.
Let's we'll deep dive on that on the topic. I think the last thing we should maybe get at in this are some of the
Reasons.
some of the reasons as to why my favorite team lost. I think one that was being brought up to me a lot. People kept asking me, are these teams not playing in enough tournaments? Because they're losing to the teams that are grinding the tier 2 tournaments, right? Like ACP
And Rise.
yeah, Rise as well. So do we think that that's a factor? I mean, one thing going against it is the fact that if you place, in the top 8 in challengers, you can't even play the tournaments.
Yeah.
So there are some teams that are just
literally
simply
can't.
not eligible to play in the tier 2 tournaments. But
I
then
think those requirements got lifted, though, from what I was hearing the Dark Zero guys say.
Oh,
I
really?
think
Well,
it was
but
like
the Dark
Masters
Zero guys,
qualification only.
the Dark Zero guys got in a long time ago. as well.
They got into a challenger main
Yeah.
event though. They didn't make the challenger final. I think I think if you make the challenger main event, you can still do it. But if you make the challenger final, you can't.
Yeah, well, they were the original team that was having those issues where they couldn't
Yes.
play in specific things.
But they do have a
Eventually-
time limit as well. So maybe it ran out for Cookie Koalas, but it hasn't run out for like Sentinels and version 1 and Cloud9 and those kind of teams.
But I think the teams that it really gets to are like the bigger name org teams that haven't found success, like TSM, FaZe could be playing in them hypothetically. Are there any other that I'm not remembering right now?
Immortals, I
yeah,
guess.
sure. Immortals.
I don't know whether
Immortals
I
did
don't-
play in
yeah.
one, and then
Who else? I mean, NRG
NRG
actually
wouldn't be
did.
able to.
Yeah, NRG wouldn't have been able to.
So, I mean, those are some of the main ones. But do we
people like
think that that's a factor? Should teams like TSM and FaZe be playing in these Tier 2 Nerd Street 10Ks that all the other Tier 2 teams are grinding in?
Absolutely. Especially for those who didn't make it to Masters and literally had a 2-month break or whatever anyways. Like, if you're not playing tournaments in that down period, like, I don't know what you're doing. Match experience is the most valuable thing in any of this TAC FPS like practice. It is so important to be able to take the stuff that you're scrimming, that you're practicing, the people that you're practicing with, and actually test it in real matches. Because in scrims, it's just not the same. I know we talk about scrim bucks a lot, just hypothetically, but it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things because you're running strats that you're testing, and the other team is testing something else. So you're not actually always running into what is actually going to be happening in the game. You're not running into the reactions that certain things will have, or all of that basically. So it's so important to be playing in these, especially when you're trying to integrate like new pieces, players with not that much experience.
Most
They
of the
really
top
also
need to be
teams.
playing those.
when the game is so new too, and there's so many teams reforming like fucking pieces of the earth's crust underneath the mantle, just going over and under each other like all the time. There's like a new 15-year-old crack lord that's popping up that's just owning. Like the thing is that like the game is constantly being redefined as one when these old tier 1 teams are kind of like stuck and trying to get into major tournaments. So if you are not making main events and you are eligible to go play smaller tournaments and you are not constantly grinding for like a Masters or something like that, right? Like you need to be in these smaller tournaments because it's the only way you're going to keep yourself sharp against like the new blood, the young blood, right? Because eventually then you're the old lion that's going to be consumed by the new younger lions. Their manes are more full, their teeth sharper. It's actually the only way. Like because it's the only way to keep yourself up to date. You have the ability to do so.
The lions eat the older lions when they supplant.
I mean,
them in
they
the
will if they there's like a lion in the pride, I believe, like, and he's the alpha, right?
Yeah,
or like sort of
yeah.
something like that. He's like the big dog, and like eventually
Big
he gets
cat,
old.
but-
He gets he's the big cat. Yeah, in this case, he's he gets old, he gets weaker, you know, maybe he has a disease or something, he has some old battle wounds, and then eventually the young guys, they're like, their hair is all slicked back, they're like, yo, fuck you, old guy, and then they get rid of him.
Right.
And so,
right.
I mean, they don't
Wyatt
always kill
can
him. Sometimes they just
summarize.
kick him out. Sometimes they just
Right.
kick him out, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So,
Okay.
but that is legitimately how it works, right? If you have the option to keep yourself sharp against new opponents and new teams, you should be doing so. If you're not currently grinding for like a Masters event
Yeah.
where you can't play.
I could see the FaZe guys putting up a counter argument that goes something like this. We're individually a lot better than those teams, and so when we play in tier 2 tournaments, we can just play like idiots, run over them, and it's not helpful practice. And so we need to be scrimming against like better opponents, something like that. I could imagine that being some kind of counter argument that you'd use, but I think at that point you just need to have the right attitude entering a game where you try to take it as seriously as possible.
Also, you can't make that argument if you just lost to Dark Zero. Like, obviously, not that Dark Zero is like a bad team, right? Dark Zero is a very good team, but it's more so like
that's one of the
if you're
teams
losing to a
running
team that has
into,
not been traditionally tier 1.
Yeah, they're a top tier 2
team. You'd play a
team.
lot of those teams that you'd be like, whatever, we'll walk over them. But eventually, you're going to play Renegades, you're going to play Sonics, you're going to play Dark Zero. Like, you're going to play the good team.
And those are teams that are all grinding out these tournaments, right?
Well, let's talk about FaZe
there.
right now. Let's talk about FaZe. I mean, they did lose to Dark Zero here as well. And Dark Zero, for anyone who's not aware, is the former Cookie Koalas team as well. I think before that, they were called the Honkaboonka Loose. They may have made...
Rhyme pronunciation.
There you go. I've been working on it. This is one of the VODs that I didn't get to catch. I did a big stint of catching up on all of the North American VODs. I haven't looked at this. The FaZe guys recently made a change. They brought in Baby J. Here's the thing that confuses me, right? Here's what I want you guys to answer, anyone who watched the game. Yes. Corey in this game puts up a 10s at Reykjavik level performance if you just look at the stats. So when I look at this game, I'm thinking, how the fuck do you lose a game where Corey goes plus 20 with 17 first kills and 3 first deaths? The guy's actually giving you a first kill so often and not actually sacrificing himself to do it that you'd think FaZe are constantly set up for wins. And it's not like he farmed all of those stats in the map where they won. He was 7-1 in first kills to first deaths on the final map, and he was 6-1 on the first map as well. How did they lose?
I mean, just look, go back to the ascent map, and then look, plus 11 Corey, minus 10 Baby Bay, and then you look at the difference in first kills and first deaths.
Yeah.
I mean,
was that the story of the match, though? That's the story of the stats. Is that the story of the match?
I do think it was to some extent. And it wasn't even necessarily that Baby Bay was like just missing and playing poorly individually. I think a bigger aspect to look at was that on a lot of the site hits that involved Baby Bay dashing in deep and creating space, he would always... He ended up always being like one step too deep and his team one step too far back, and and so he was never really getting supported, but he was never really in a position to be supported. So that resulted, and it was specifically happening on Ascent on B, I think a lot, where he was going too far towards spawn and wasn't getting help, and he would die before the rest of the team could really assist. But then also, I think just throughout this game, FaZe had a good initial attacking half, and a lot of it came off the back of like pressuring towards B, and then they were doing a nice job working mid and then working towards A with like 4 players, and they would leave Baby J on these really deep lurks towards B, and he was finding a lot of value early on in this game. I mean, there were some rounds where he just walked through B after the rest of the team had left to pressure mid, pressure A. He killed one guy in the back. Then he killed another guy in the back. Then he killed a third guy in the back. Like, he was finding a lot of value doing that. But after the sides flipped and things evened out, and then it went into OT, I think Dark Zero just had a much greater understanding as to how FaZe were approaching it, and that was no longer working. That was kind of my feel on this map.
Yeah, when I watched Dark Zero play, this team definitely it was just like a battle of attrition where FaZe would get some stuff to work. Occasionally they'd have some pop-off moments, but like Baby Bay was just so disjointed a lot of the times to where they could never really solidify their lead. And then they get to OT, and at this point Dark Zero is like, okay, we know the rotations, we know what Baby Bay's been doing, and we're going to be really, really set up here. And it just kind of lasted long enough to where they figured them out entirely. and they just won it out.
Yeah. Also, I mean, FaZe did have a lot of clutch moments in early on in the game. I think like Zachary and Raucus won a couple huge like a 2v4 and
2v4s.
yeah, like I can't remember if it was 2v4, 2v3 or something, but like back to back, they won some pretty crazy rounds early on.
So does that make you believe that the game could have been even more one-sided in Dark Zero's favor? Or is that unfair?
I think that's kind of unfair. I mean, if that didn't happen, maybe the game would have ended Dark Zero winning like 13-11,
right.
which is still a close affair. I mean, it was really honestly, I didn't think it was a terrible game from FaZe or something. Like I thought that they overall, I think they were playing pretty fine. I think that their approach on attack was good. It just it eventually just.
Yeah. But that's nowhere near where FaZe was at the beginning of this year. That's what I've kind of structured this topic around as well. Mm-hmm. Can FaZe ever get back to that? Is that some magic that you feel like they can recapture? Because to me, it feels lost. I didn't watch this game. I want to make that very clear. But in the recent Challengers qualifying processes and the games that I have seen of FaZe, they don't look like the same team. They just look like they don't have that rhythm to their play and the craziness that was all working out. Like every single thing was just working and clicking completely to run over teams. They would have just blitzed through this team at the beginning of the year if you think about where Cookie Koalas were like back then. But that is not the case recently. Can they recapture that magic?
We might just need to readjust our expectations at this point. I mean, it does seem pretty far off to think that they're going to just suddenly make a second place in the next qualifier, and but I do think that I do think that they could still perform as like a top. Maybe like a top 10, top 8 or something. Like this game, they absolutely could have won this game. And mind you, they did. They rolled them on Haven on the second game. I mean, they crushed them. And Baby J was nasty on Haven. Okay. I mean, on defense, he was just every sight hit that came onto A on Haven when he was anchoring, he was always good for multiple kills. I mean, he just locked down the map. He was playing incredibly well. And even, I mean, Icebox was really close. Like, they lost 2 close maps and crushed them on 1. Sure. That's a pretty close series. I mean, they lost a close series to another team that is on their way up and is in the conversation as a team that could definitely be making it to some of these like top 8s in these qualifiers. Is one of the lower teams in the top 8. So it wasn't like it wasn't a bad showing. Okay. It just, they lost. But it wasn't a bad showing.
Okay.
I think that they could still like have a spark of like, holy shit, this is crazy. But there are way too many good top teams in NA now that will be a rock when they face them. Like I don't see them ever going toe to toe with V1 again. You know, like I just don't see that happening. I think V1 has progressed so far that they'll just hit a brick wall when they run into them. But they could suddenly be like, yeah, we're up in the top 5 again. We're qualifying for main events. We're qualifying for Challengers finals. I definitely see that potential there just because Baby Bay did have such an off series. That convinces me that the series could have been way, way more close or even one-sided in the other department in FaZe's direction. If Baby Bay was like,
right. Exactly.
Dark Zero is a team that, in my mind, is starting to have that sort of structure that, V1 is starting to, or was building in the last stage where they ended up going off like crazy. So yeah, I think that this could continue to be like a scrappy series, but the top 4 or 5 teams in NA are going to be a brick wall against FaZe unless they change something.
The perpetual Smeeg energy machine has also started to falter just a bit. And it's not just because of Baby Bay's performance here. It's not really it. Like it's legitimately, on top of the fact that going back to our earlier topic of these teams that have been grinding out for a really long time, like there's just less and less opponents for them to just like roll over and like a mechanical skill difference, you know? You're not going to be able to do that forever. It works in the beginning, right? But as everyone gets better, as the game solidifies more and more and more, and there's so many more teams that have been grinding and reforming with talented players that were on old T1 rosters, like for example here with Dark Zero. It's just impossible to maintain a style unless you are just like unless you are Sentinels. And even then, Sentinels has had close matches, right? When we saw like at Masters and things like that. So like, and even their latest Sonics game where you just can't roll over everyone. You actually need to change up your approach here a little bit. And I don't think FaZe's approach was inherently bad, right? But it's a fundamental reshaping of this team where they have to approach the game very differently when they were at like the top, which is why we 100% should change our expectations, because it's just, you just can't keep the shmeeg forever. It has to like, you have to bottle it and harness it and distill it into an actual team versus just like that is your whole thing.
I like it. That was a good retake as well. I mean, I like that clip.
Yeah.
That was
their Haven was
pretty
nasty.
well thought through. Yeah,
their Haven was excellent. I suppose my last point on FaZe would be, I hope that the team themselves, Trippy, whomever, when they're watching this game back, they just there are things from like that Ascent game, for instance, that they can take away and improve on in regards to some of the mistakes that are being made with the hits when Baby A was going too deep. And I hope they don't just look at it as, Baby A had an off day and he wasn't hitting his shots, and that's why his KD was not good. That's why he wasn't delivering the entry kills, because there were things within that they can fix. That maybe that might have made the difference in them squeezing out one more round on Ascent, which could have been all the difference. Yeah. If just one of those rounds, the timing on one of the B hits was better and Baby Bay didn't go quite as deep into spawn and they just wrapped to site effect. Like one more of those rounds that they could have squeezed out could have been a win. And that's something that can be fixed. Players are going to have off days. Even the craziest of aimers like Baby Bay are going to have off days. But yeah, there are things within that they can fix, and I hope that they do.
I've been receiving this question quite a lot as well, so I want to post it up to all of you. Cloud9 were rated top 9 in the world by Plat Chat, and the community Scrimbucks were through the fucking roof.
I thought you were going to say people have been asking you recently if it's true that you throw your games for content, because
that's true. No, I don't mean that's true. I mean that people have been asking me that.
Sideshow exposed?
No. That was not a slip up. But I've been hearing there's been a lot of talk out there of Cloud9 looking incredible. The pros have been tweeting about how Cloud9 are going to win Berlin or whatever. It's tongue-in-cheek to some aspect. But and then they come out and they lose to a top tier 2 team like Kooky Koalas, like Dark Zero, Rise, and they lose to them 2-0. Should we all be selling our Cloud9 stocks? They made top 3 in the previous one. They almost made Reykjavik. Everyone expected them to go upwards after that, even though they're making the swap for Zeppa coming in for Poison. No one really knows how good Zeppa's going to be. Should we be selling? What's going on here?
Balla, you go first.
Balla, you look like a financial analyst. Tell me.
Look, Wyatt has definitely been on, it's been his Cloud9 for forever. I was very convinced by Wyatt in Challengers Finals that they deserve to be up. Not necessarily, where they're the best team in the world or anything like that, but with the way that they're playing, Leaf playing phenomenally, Zeta showing like insane stuff throughout Challengers Finals as his role playing the Breach. Floppy being a player who came in and was just like absolutely unbelievable. They still look very good. They lost to Rise, but if you watch these games, they had some really, really good ideas with slightly like off execution, and they were experimenting a shit ton. They played the split comp, which I haven't seen them play. They're playing Zeta on Viper, which I don't think he's ever played in an official comp. And then they're playing Sage for the first time on split as well. So there certainly was things that are kind of off, but with the new patch, with the new agents, like all the changes and whatnot, I think it's expected that there will be like slight execution missteps. So I don't think you sell your Cloud9 stocks. If anything, buy a little bit. Buy a couple of stocks right here because exactly. Okay. Everybody's freaking out right now and like Shazam saying, "Oh, they're overrated and whatnot." Zeppa did look like, you guys can touch on this as well, but Zeppa is somebody that a lot of people are trying to make claims on right now, and I think it's much, much too early for that.
I mean, it reminds me of when Ethan switched and everybody was ready for him to be the top 1 player out of the gate. Everyone was going crazy, hyping him up.
Yeah.
And then when he first came in, it was okay, he's doing okay, and there's clearly glimpses of the potential. But it's, and I feel the same way to some extent about Xeppaa, where there were moments where I was like, oh, he really has an understanding of the Jett mechanics. That was a nice little, move with the dash and the updraft, and he hits a crazy shot here and there. But it's the man's going to need a little bit of time. I think we have to temper our expectations with these pros from other games that have high skill levels in other games coming over at this point. We can't expect them to be insane out of the gate, right? I do think though, I am on the same page with you, Ball, in that they were clearly trying new things. They didn't look as drilled to some extent when they were running the Astra Breach, and it felt like with that, and then with Leaf playing the Raze, it seemed like every piece of utility was just magic. Everything was connecting. Every fault line hit someone into a nade, and then the suck comes through. Yep. It was all perfect. And yeah, it seemed like they were definitely there was some that coordination, that level of it was there was a bit to be desired in this. But yeah, I'm not going to write them off. I'm not going to sell. I'm going to hold at the moment. I think the only part of this game that I was not thrilled about I'm not thrilled about Cloud9 losing in general. But I think that their Ascent attack half it left a lot to be desired.
It was shit. It was really poor.
I think a lot of issue with that for me came from... Well, it came from a couple things. I think on attack, the Reyna was just not effective into, they're playing against an Astra, Killjoy, a perma-opping Jett, and a guy with an Odin spamming through walls. And the Reyna, and they also, Rise were just playing dug into the sites. They were not pressing map control at all. They were giving up mid.
Yeah, they were.
So Cloud9 just had full map control immediately.
But they were running site pops with a Jett Reyna. What?
They were just... Yeah, they would get they essentially Rise gave them the map for free, but when they would hit the sites, they didn't have the utility to deal with the players that were dug in the trenches on B, just spraying with an Odin, or Supermen just locking down A, and there's Gravwell and choke, and your Arena trying to run through. Like, that's where I'm like, okay, maybe Leaf should be still playing Raze here, honestly.
Or just try a slow play round at any point.
Yeah, I think
and play for the map a little. They would
they had the map. That's the thing, though.
Yeah, but they weren't. Pushing into those areas? They were just. Rise were leaving it open, but C9 they'd walk down mid, and then they'd just go to A and burst into A, and there'd still be like a minute on the clock. And it's like you haven't taken the time and worked the clock to try and draw out mistakes at any point.
That's kind of what I wanted to see. I think where they missed on that was they needed to actually draw out some of the Astra util and some of the Killjoy util, because at the end of the day, that is still... Astra is still a very viable answer to the site pop, because one Gravwell is still one Gravwell, right? So that was the part of this series where I had a more negative view. But overall, it's one game. Yeah. Xeppaa is still he's still got a lot of room to improve in my mind. So I think it'll be more reasonable to have a firmer stance on Cloud9 after all of Stage 3 is said and done.
Yeah, my impression watching this game was that Cloud9 are actually a good team. I think Rise... The problem for me with Cloud9 is that they only seem to have one tempo. They just wanted to go fast at all times. They wanted to be applying pressure and making decisions very quickly. And it's impressive how fast they're able to play. But it felt to me a bit of like the Brazil problem, where they're so readable, because what they're doing whenever they take mid, they're instantly going into a B split. They're not really changing up the flow of the game at all. You're just allowing Rise to sit back, turtle on the sites, and that's it. That's all they have to do. That was the biggest issue for me, because other than that, like, the coordination looks good, the individual play looks good. I also think that you caught Rise on a good day as well, because Derek had a phenomenal fucking game, getting so many impact kills. His Odin as well on Ascent was insane. And then Superman, too, playing like his best game since he first joined
literally
a
his
pro
best
team.
game since playing on Homeless in like the PAX arena.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
Wild.
he was a brick wall in this game.
Yeah. It was bizarre. But credit to Rise as well, because I think Rise are one of those teams that are perched at the top level of Tier 2, waiting for these Tier 1 teams to make an to not make an upset happen, but like to make mistakes. And the more mistakes you make, the more opportunities you open for very solid teams like Rise to capitalize. And if you give them an in, they'll take it. They're good enough to be able to take those games if you play sloppy against them. And especially there on Ascent, I think like Mitch maybe got in his own head in terms of the IGLing and was just calling fast plays over and over again. And they were up like 10-5 and throw the game away. It was
it felt It felt kind of like the Cloud9 that came out during Stage 2. I think they played against Andbox or something like that, and they played on Ascent, and they literally did the same thing over and over, didn't make any changes, didn't adjust at all. And then they went out, I think they came back in Challengers 2, and they looked completely different. So, like, that is a thing that will happen, especially as there's large breaks between tournaments where teams come out and they look like they're, what the hell is this? Like, this is not what we're used to watching. And then all of a sudden, they have an entirely new look.
Yeah. I do still believe in Cloud9, though. I mean, I think that, it's fair to say that they were overrated perhaps coming into this tournament, judging by their actual performance. But I think their potential, and not just their potential, but what they showed in the last tournament too, should still lead you to believe that they're capable of maybe even making it to Berlin right underneath Sentinels. Like, that is the ceiling of this team. Whether or not they actually make it there is a different question, but I still think that this team has that. And I could see this fast-paced style that Cloud9 are going for throwing off a lot of other rosters. I think you have to give credit to Rise for being able to deal with it too, because it's when teams play that quickly, it does force you to make your decisions really quickly too, and it's quite easy to get run over in those.
I think you have to give a lot of credit to Rise as well. We talked about so much about C9, but like I was really worried about this Rise team because I've been keeping some tabs on them simply because they had players that I had like known, like with Calypso, and a lot of people thought Calypso was like the best component of this team. And we're like, okay, they don't have Calypso anymore, so how does this squad perform after he's gone, right? And they come out and have like a great performance here versus the new C9. So I have to say, if Superman continues to put up the PAX Arena performance here, and they just in general continue to gel this way, I feel like they're how dare I say poised to be in a good position.
I mean,
you should not have dared say it.
Nice. I've only heard that 172 times in the past.
Yeah.
I've been hearing
173.
Yeah.
173 times, Wyatt. But yeah, C9, lot of room for them to grow. Like, brand new team. I also feel like the fast-paced style is like a very easy default crutch for teams that feel they have a lot of fragging power to just like pop hit like sites all the time. So
they do. They do have
and they do. And so they just need time to like develop a little bit more. I think once Zeppa gets more in the swing of it and they feel more confident, like actually setting up their plays to last longer, like, and just working map control, they're going to be pretty good. I'm not going to sell my stocks. I'm buying the dip.
Yeah, you're buying the dip. You're not just holding. You're buying the dip.
I'm buying the dip
doubling
for C9
down.
for sure. Yeah.
Right.
It's just like a couple stocks here. It's not.
Okay,
it's not like
a
what I
huge
did
amount.
when after Challengers Finals. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay. I get it. I get it.
Shanks looked revitalized like I don't think I've seen him for actually probably ever. Like, to be honest, I expected when he played on NRG for him to come out every single game and just like be an op monster, but he just never was. This game, this series, he had certainly flashes of that, which was exciting.
Yeah. He definitely got the better end of Zeppa in a number of scenarios. An impressive performance, but I don't think this was like, sometimes teams lose games and sometimes the upset team wins the game, And I think this was one of the scenarios where Rise won the game on the split and Cloud9 lost the game on Ascent. And so, you feel like pretty good about both teams. You don't feel like it was terrible from either squad, but they had their moments. I want to talk about 100 Thieves next because, what, sorry? John Madden?
Yeah, Balla mentioned John Madden, and I could not think of a better description of how you are talking right now. That is amazing.
The other team seems to be doing pretty well by winning the game, and the other team does not appear to be doing as good by losing the game here.
Do you understand? There are some times where teams lose. They don't. It's not the other team
No,
wins.
no.
They just
Yeah,
play their
agree.
game, and the other team loses. Like Cloud9 lost. I said, I am fucking John Madden at it, but when you watch, I mean, okay, let's move on.
I know what you mean.
I want to talk about 100 Thieves, all right? Because we want to kind of follow this path, essentially, of Noble, right? This topic is almost talking more about Noble than it is about 100 Thieves,
More
perhaps.
about TSM too, like
Exactly, because we're going to get on to talking about TSM after this also. But 100 Thieves to start with almost got eliminated or like had very close series against teams you shouldn't be expecting to see them have close series against Saw, against Noble. When I watched these games, I was not particularly impressed by 100 Thieves. Even though they won and Cloud9 lost, I would feel way more confident about like a Cloud9 team than 100 Thieves overall, I think, moving forwards. Because when I watch these games, and specifically the game against Noble, right? Because the game against Saw didn't actually get streamed. But this game against Noble, it didn't feel like 100 Thieves had changed anything from last time. That, to me, was the biggest problem. I was watching this game, and I was like, you've still got all the same problems. Asana's out in fucking Africa, and you've got no real support for him. You keep slowing down the sight hits after somebody dies, but you're not actually cutting noise, and you're just slow peeking into people and dying. It felt like there was no significant improvement. I was just watching the same old 100 Thieves.
I don't care what team it is at this point. I don't care if it's 100 Thieves, if it's FPX. When it comes to Icebox, just play Sage. I've seen enough. I have seen enough of this Sageless Icebox theory to have the notion that Sage is in fact good on Icebox.
I have a different take, though.
Okay.
The devs need to redesign Icebox so that Sage is not a must pick. No. Otherwise, you have to blood sacrifice your Sage to get the spike plant down all the time. Yeah. The map needs a fucking redesign.
I agree with that.
It's shit.
Okay. I agree with that.
But that's outside the confines of the explanation, right? That's like saying, well,
that was the shit.
So we should cool down. Like, obviously,
to fucking Narnia. I think the only other take is that Sage isn't needed on Icebox. Yeah, I agree that the map should be changed.
But what I mean is, I feel like teams are trying to get value out of Sage's comms because they're like, why the fuck are we playing Sage? The only reason to play Sage is like a little bomb delivery slave that goes in and just and you put down the bomb and you leave. But this, I think the teams are trying to find a pick that gets you more value. But the problem is the map is is designed so that you need that little just courier for the bomb all the time. And you need the walls to be able to get you into certain scenarios.
Yes.
I think teams are trying to rebel out of that because they feel like it's such a limited pick. But it isn't. You just need it because the map is shit.
As IGLing you two on Icebox. On the one hand, the guy I forced to play Sage on Icebox. On the other hand, the guy who wants to play Sage on every other map. That's why
my thing is, well, here's what I'd ask you. Do you think that Killjoy opping is a viable replacement for the Sage?
Okay, get the fuck out of here. No, it's not.
What?
No, it's not. But that's not even. They're not even trying to do the same thing. All right, let's get the conversation back to 100 Thieves, though. I mean,
that's what they were doing.
But they weren't using it as a replacement for the Sage, particularly. I mean, they're just.
I mean,
I think
that's
Steel is just
where the Sage would be in that comp.
I suppose, but there's. It doesn't really help you get toward. It doesn't help you like. Well, I suppose it helps you cover tube and stuff, but it doesn't help.
Is it also, or perhaps maybe that maybe they don't need the Omen? What? I mean, are 100 Thieves?
I mean, 100 Thieves have been committing all time on Icebox to Omen Viper. They are 100% committed to running Omen Viper. They've believed it for a while. They talk about it on stream. They just don't think you can run solo Viper here, despite the fact that everyone else in the world thinks you can, apart from maybe Gen.G.
I mean, it does seem like 100 Thieves are. They feel that they're hurting from not having a Jett player. I mean, they've thrown Asana onto the Jett on Haven. I mean, do we believe that is somewhat of a limiting factor on these other maps that they can't run the comp that like Sentinels is running or like Ascend are running. What I think is probably the best comp on Icebox, which is having the Reyna Jett. Do we think that? I mean, is that a factor as well? Because I kind of do.
I don't think it's a factor. I think it's a symptom. I think I think the root problem is that their team has too many players that want to be supportive, and the symptom of that is we don't have anyone who can play Jett. The other symptom of that is you're fucking up your solo duelist comps with all of your spacing and your positioning too.
Yeah.
But the root problem, to me, the more I watch 100 Thieves, the more I'm coming to the realization that there might need to be a roster change in this team's future, because players this good can't be skill capped like this. Like, it's not acceptable in my opinion, and I think that 100 Thieves, the org, will also come to the same realization. It's not acceptable to have players that have so much talent, and they do, but your combination of them doesn't work. And even though 100 Thieves are going to make it, probably relatively deep when it comes to this tournament, they're not going to achieve what they set out to achieve, which is like a repeat win of First Strike or being the team that makes it to Berlin. There's no way that you can look at this game, the only streamed recent games of 100 Thieves, and be confident about them making it to Berlin unless you're deep on the fucking copium. They just don't look like they have the potential to do that. And I don't think that's going to end up being acceptable for this squad. And even to make it to like the last chance qualifier and do well and get into champions at the end of the year, again, I don't really see the potential here. I don't know whether it's an issue with the IGLing of like these players are being told to play like this. It seems more like their natural tendencies though, because I swear Steel is smart enough to realize that they need to be more proactive and they need to have more like forward power at the front of their pack, and there's none of that, and there hasn't been for ages.
Didn't he have that explanation that like they tried so many times and they just couldn't get it to work? It wasn't that a whole thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was saying that, like, I think Asuna was saying that Steel has really been trying to tell them, like, anyone can be an entry fragger. Like, if you see that role is missed, it's not just on Asuna. Like, you have to go and do that job. And I don't know whether that isn't being effectively communicated or it's just not going in or the players don't think like that. I don't know. It just isn't working. Like, when you watch them play, it's the scaling aspect of it. Like, they use their utility, but then they don't actually take the space that they've created. And that either those issues normally come from really low confidence, which I don't understand why this team would be like scared against these teams, or they come from like players who are too passive and they don't have that desire to go forwards and take the risk. I don't know. I feel like it's a more fundamental issue that perhaps needs to be. It's perhaps too early to call it completely, but that's the direction that my brain is going in.
Yeah. I understand what you're getting at. I mean, all that aside, I mean, they did in pretty cool and also, I don't know, just odd fashion. They did win the first map with Ethan lagging out, and then they brought Dicey back in, and then they win the first map with Dicey. Yeah. And then they return to, and then Ethan comes back for the second map. They lose Icebox, which they've just been struggling on Icebox. I mean, I think they lost Icebox to the previous team as well, right? I might be wrong on that, but I can't remember. I don't know. So check. It was a computer.
Yes, it was 13-11.
Yeah, it was Icebox again. And then on the third map, they did win on Ascent in very close fashion, but it was on Ascent where my confidence in 100 Thieves might be at an all-time low after watching them win on Ascent. I mean, some of the rounds in the first half, I mean, they were just not good. I don't know what to say. I mean,
isn't it the same thing that we've seen from them for so long on Ascent? Like, literally no changes, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it felt
they're
like
not even going back to like the old like wall pops that was like super cool that they were doing before. Like, it's.
Kurt, could you play?
I feel like that
7
defines 100 Thieves in general, right? They haven't evolved this entire time. Every time we've watched them play, it feels like this is the same team we saw months ago when they first formed, right? Like, it's just they're just individually. This team is so talented overall, and they have a deep enough understanding of the game to where they're going to go relatively far. And then there's going to be moments where like fucking like Asuna just drops like a 30 bomb or something and just like win like a massive game, or like, or it doesn't even have to be Asuna. It could be like Ethan or Nitro also just have like a crazy fucking game too, right? So they're just so talented, but it feels like they have yet to evolve past like, we have Asuna in, and now we play really slow, and our spacing is really weird, and we're slowing down the side hit, and Hiko is approximately 1 trillion miles away on a space shuttle.
Look at the minimap here as well. Why do you need 4 players to take a main, and you have no info anywhere else, and your entire thing is that you're just going to slowly...
Just watch how this round plays
slowly go into A. This is how they started a lot of their rounds as well, where they don't start with like a default and they try and take the map control or anything. They overstack players in an area to complete a fairly simple objective. There's a lot of players here who are not doing anything useful. They're just watching their teammates' backs, essentially. They're not actually accomplishing anything, applying pressure anywhere else. And then they're just going to group up for an A hit at the end anyway. And they don't know whether people are pushed out of B main. There's no noise over by anywhere else on the map for Noble to have to deal with. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, Again, after this map, I don't have a lot of confidence with 100 Thieves going into this Challenger final, or Challenger main event, rather.
I mean, I did really like Leviathan's play.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, to talk about Noble, though, they're certainly, they have skilled players on this team. Leviathan was playing really well. He's been playing really well for this team for, I mean, at least the last few weeks or so, from the games that I've watched of Noble in the Tier 2 scene. And also B-Dog picking up the Duelist for the first time has been impressive. He has a really good understanding of players' positioning on the map. Like, he does an excellent job when he's AWPing of always finding the perfect timings to kill players who are on the lurk or on the flanks. Like, he has a really good mental map of like what's happening in game. I think that team has some good skilled players for sure. I think they're on the right path. I think they should have a good trajectory. Respect to them for making it that far, getting the upset on TSM, almost getting the upset on 100 Thieves. A nice showing from them, honestly.
Yeah, Froster ZK is nasty. I think he's a recent addition, right? After Zekin left.
I mean, they made a lot of pretty much the entirety of the old Noble rosters off the Noble roster.
Yeah. Pyan and ZK were the newest additions, and ZK was nasty. In the map that they won. So yeah, definitely props to Noble. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting following 100 Thieves. I mean, if we think back to the conversations that they were having the last time that we had this discussion, it was like Steel talking about how they were trying to adjust their Icebox comp and they felt like they didn't have enough time and they wasted 3 days like trying out a bunch of different compositions, and then they had to go back to what they were doing and they couldn't figure out which maps were the best for them. They ended up, there's like, I don't know. There's too many difficulties here. It feels like eventually a change is going to be. It really does.
Yeah, I don't want to hang on this forever, but go on, Balla.
Yeah, I watched some of those rounds, and to be honest, sometimes I feel like I'm watching Steel literally give up on the team in some of the calls that he's making. Like, usually I would see like especially that one round that we're seeing. Like, when you see indecisiveness of him specifically, and then the rest of them are kind of floating around, it feels like he's trying to call something, but then he's just like, fuck it, we're gonna slam through A anyways, because I don't have the faith to try to get them to do something else. That seems to me like it could be happening, but that's just pure speculation based off of a fucking mini-map. So
it's also, Steel is about the player with the most individual freedom on that team other than Asuna. You'll see Steel go for more plays than other people that are on the team. Like, your Killjoy is picking up the AWP. Your Killjoy is the one that's like going on the flank backstab play or trying to lurk or trying to open up an area. It's not other players. It's like Asuna is mad. He doesn't have a leash on him at all. And then it's Steel who feels like when I watch, it feels like Steel is trying to make up for the lack of proactivity on his other players, because he has the idea in his head of like the IGL, like, I know that this needs to be done and no one else is doing it, and therefore I will. Even though it's not necessarily his role to do. Very odd.
Yeah. We can move on.
Okay.
We can move on, yeah.
So the other thing that I wanted to talk about here is we want to get into TSM. Now, a reminder that the TSM Noble game was not actually on stream, but they did make a roster move as well, so it's time for the famous Pro-State Exam. Assessing the state of these pros. And my word, it's been a long time coming, it feels. It's been a long time coming for a TSM Pro-State.
Yeah.
They're overdue. I mean, they have higher risk now. They need to make sure we need to get in there.
And this time, we're doing a medical exam without a drone as well. So no keyhole surgery. We're just going straight in, slice them open.
Oh my God. I mean, oh my God. I sure.
That was good. That was good.
This guy.
That was nice.
You write that one last night?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Thank you. Little round of applause.
That is unbelievable.
The slow clap. Yeah. I mean, it is very difficult to actually assess what's happening here because TSM haven't played a game against a tier 1 team on stream since April. So if you're trying to assess how they're playing, you have to look at these kind of VODs like Levitate, FBM, stuff like that, and maybe try and look at like the comps they're playing.
Also,
the role changes,
from the point of view of a player on Levitate. So you're not getting the whole... I mean, I tuned in briefly, and I don't know. You just see peaks and angle and just dies to Wardell up, and it's like, okay, I don't know. You can only get so much from that. But
with that caveat given, though, I kind of want to begin with the drone shift that we've just seen. So drone being removed from the team. So they've already made a bunch of other moves before this. Now, after losing to Noble and failing to make it through this qualifier, they've just been at a boot camp as well. So they brought drone in person to say their goodbyes. That they've now parted with drone. This like back when they were at their best, he was probably the best Phoenix player that we had in North America. You know, he was up there with the best Sovas, but we're talking ancient fucking history.
We're talking Ignition series.
Yeah, like a long time ago.
It is crazy, but that is pretty much a year ago. At this point, I mean, we're
actually it's over a year ago. If you're thinking about TSM's peak, isn't it? Like July?
That's about now.
Is it about now?
Yeah, it is about now. So yeah, I mean, now into the next couple months, like last August was the FaZe invitation.
There was First Strike too that we could like.
Yeah, they did okay
that was
there.
First Strike was the final hurrah. They made the final. They came in second, and then after that, it's just immediately after that. Actually, it had just been downhill. I mean. Look, they needed to make a big change. Honestly, I think at the end of the day, this might be one of those situations where the team has just, that core of the team has just expired. It is simply expired. You know, like I like chicken, but if chicken expires, I'm not going to eat it. But that doesn't mean I don't like chicken anymore. I still like chicken, and if drone is. And I still like drone. Just because he was he was a part of the thing that expired doesn't mean I don't like.
The problem with that analogy, though, is that when a piece of chicken expires, that's it. It's done. That piece of chicken is fucked forever. It doesn't go back to being unexpired. Where I guess your point is that
generally, I still like chicken in general.
Right.
You know what I mean? I still like drone. I think drone is. I wouldn't be surprised if it just ends up where he's just on another team. And he performs better elsewhere.
We actually do have an expert for this. Analogy of Avast. Can you compare? Do you have anything that might be better than the
better than that? I mean, chicken? I think more so. I think a more accurate comparison would be like, I don't like fruit cake, but I do like fruit. You know, and so when I take drone, a piece of fruit out of the fruit cake, the component of the fruit cake, I still like that piece of fruit. But when I put it back in to make the fruit cake, I'm like, oh, this sucks ass. And that's TSM. TSM is the fruit cake, and drone is a piece of fruit.
Okay,
I see. Yeah, that's what.
That's all right. That's not bad actually. That's why we pay him the big bucks for those kind of analogies.
That's what I'm getting at, though. Like, I think at the end of the day, this happens to teams all the time, where it's just you've been around each other for too long. You know, there's no bringing back the glory days. You know, it's hard to recreate that magic. They've tried a million different things in regards to keeping the roster, but change in-game leader, change the roles, you play this, you play that. It was time that they made a bigger change, and hopefully Drone just has... I think Drone will still have a fine pro career, and he could still be a very good player, just elsewhere.
But outside of Drone, I guess... A lot of the fans are looking at this and they're saying, well, Drone was one of your best pieces. Why don't you try mixing up Or why don't you try removing the leadership, like Sabrosa at the IGL role? Why don't you try removing Hayes? He hasn't been performing at the same level as Drone when you were at your peak. Like I think people are really wondering who the core of this team is and who the core of this team should be if you want to find success in the future. I think identifying that is very difficult, especially when they haven't been, like I said, on stream for 3 months against a top team. But Balla, if you were looking at TSM purely from the outside and trying to select a few players to rebuild around, who would you go for? Like, what is the core of this team? How do you make this core work again?
Yeah, the difficulty of that is how much they have been changing some of the people who you would expect to be the core, like Sabrosa, like how much he has been changing roles and what he's been playing. Like, I don't really even have an identity for him anymore, right? So
Yeah.
I can't just be like, here's a piece. I need this. I need a controller. I need this or whatever. That becomes really difficult for them. But I feel like it has to be part of that. Sabrosa, Wardell, one of those two, in my opinion, have to go because they are going to be the team, the place that the team's heart is from. And that is, to me, I've always been trying to say that that's kind of been where the issue lies from. They need to be able to replace that. I feel like Drone is somebody that goes with it simply because he's kind of like, well, I don't know. I don't want to put any aspiration or I don't know what the hell the word is, but it makes sense to me for like aspersions. Yeah, on character is basically what I was trying to go for. So like trying to replace the actual heart of the team with something entirely new, in my mind, is 100% necessary. Otherwise, it's going to fall into the same traps.
When you say the heart of the team, you're talking about like IGL captain, the emotional leading within the team. Is that the point where it's like you need people that are coming in with drive, with different ideas, with like
exactly.
Yeah, going to be keeping people balanced as they're in the game, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
I definitely agree. I mean,
I feel like TSM has historically in all sorts of games gone so much for the influence side of being a pro player that it becomes hard for them as well. I clearly see them like Wardell's untouchable. Sabrosa's untouchable because of their brands that they're building within the team and that TSM has invested in them. But I think that is, if they want to create a TSM that should be respected in the pro scene, they need to drop that idea and, give in to the sunk costs at that point. Like,
let's talk about that aspect as well. If TSM do feel like the organization are attached to these big brands, at what point do people stop being fans of TSM? Like, I know that TSM fans are wild, and we're already at the point now where there's been 6 months of them doing essentially nothing at the pro level. They had a glimpse in some of the qualifiers for Masters 1, was it? Where they got relatively
there
deep,
was that
and it was
one
crazy
game
that it
where
was like,
all of a sudden they just beat Gen.G.
Yeah, and it was like, whoa, what the fuck?
90 kills on one map,
but
and
that's
it was
like
just insane.
One flash in the pan in the whole of this year. You'd already think that people would have given up on TSM. If it was any other team, people would have given up. But TSM, the brand is so large, and Wardell and Sabrosa and their success in Ignition, at what point does it just become the best business decision to completely rebuild this team? Because it's got to be coming up.
I say this all the time. It is unbelievable, though. If you are the first amazing team or like the first amazing players in a new game, you can carry that fucking clout a long way.
Yeah.
It happens in every new game. Whoever is the best first, they will just be in the conversation forever.
Yeah.
Even if, I mean, at this point, it's like, it's been all year. Yeah, it's been more than all year. It's been since, if you want to include mid-December when they played the JBL Quantum.
Sure.
And just got blasted in the group stage. But they've just carried it this whole way.
Is this the last time they won a tournament? Is that what you're showing us here?
They won the FaZe Invitational. That was the last one.
From the business side, I don't feel like... I think you're looking at it from an interesting angle of like, what is the goal? What is the goal of TSM here exactly? And what is the goal? Like, this is a very big problem in general with like, how much value is Sabrosa and Wardell currently building for the TSM brand to where it doesn't even matter that they win or not?
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Like from a business side, it's like technically you could be like, well, the goal of esports is to win. It's like, well, no, the goal of esports is to finally start making some fucking money. And like, and the issue is that like, winning doesn't always guarantee you money. And in addition to that, like having two gigantic creators and onto this team could make it seem like they are untouchable. And also, you could still make an argument that like Sabrosa and Wardell have talent enough to stay on top of the clout that they bring as creators, right? So it's really hard to make a decision from like just being like, well, we're not performing, right? But it's like, yeah, but what is the goal of this organization? Is the goal of this organization to win? Like, is there currently enough reason to like rebuild this team when you have two gigantic creators with huge brands that are like, and one of them is kind of endemic now to Valorant with Wardell. So
okay,
I don't know.
My point as to what you were asking though about when is like the cutoff, when does that not matter? Because I mean, I am glad you brought that up, Balla, because I do think you can clearly see what's kind of going on in regards to TSM's view on it. To some extent, when you're watching their content and it's Wardell, Sabrosa, Hazed doing these interviews with Myth, and like you can see what's going on there. And I think Myth is a good example of this actually to some extent, where there is eventually a cutoff point where if you're known for being the good player at the game and that is your brand, where if you don't perform, there is a point where you get passed by all the content creators who are also pounding in the game. Like there was a point in Fortnite, Myth was on top for a really long time. He started failing in tournaments and his brand value went way down. He wasn't getting as many viewers because he wasn't performing competitively. And the people who were started taking a lot of his, I don't want to say directly like taking his viewers, I feel like that's kind of stupid, but more people were interested in watching those guys who were then succeeding in the big tournaments. And their brand starts to drop. And that will happen in Valorant. Like Wardell and Sabrosa's brand is based around them being really good at the game. Wardell is crazy at opping and playing Jett, and Sabrosa has crazy aim. That is their brands. That is the primary focus rather of their brands. And eventually, if they're not finding results from that, the numbers for them are going to drop too. So you have to maintain both to succeed.
I think there is some difference, though, between the Fortnite example and the Valorant example, in that a lot of what you're watching and paying attention to, if you're watching Wardell, is not really his matches, it's his ranked performance. And if you can stay at the top of ranked, and even if you give up on being a pro, you can still have a career that, as a streamer that's built around, I am good at this game. There's so many people in Overwatch who are not on pro teams, but they have big streaming careers just built around, I am good at X hero. And then people who watch their stream genuinely believe that they are one of the best in the world because they're pounding the ranked ladder.
That can happen, but when you see Asana's trajectory, for example, you can see the impact of performing in tournaments and how that sends you to the fucking stratosphere.
I mean, the Sentinels guys' streams
they all blew
doubled,
up.
tripled, whatever,
And if that's, TSM don't look like they're going to be at Iceland at any time. Yeah, Boaster's going to, whatever. It's like 4K.
Yeah, his stream grew 10
1 million
times.
in China. I mean, he's huge. So there is an immense amount of value in that. But I don't know. If we want to direct the conversation away from that to the rest of the roster, there is one thing that I do want to talk about as well in regards to Bang. When we were talking about him joining the team last time, Balla, the point you had made about will this actually fix their problems, that just stuck with me. I kept hearing your voice in my head all week when I was just thinking, he's right.
Rent free.
And I feel like we're going to be in this situation where he might not get a good look just based on being on the team he's on right now. In that he's on TSM. If they're not going to perform, it's going to look like he's not performing. It's going to look like he isn't actually a legit upcoming talent, which I do believe he is. But
have you seen the other people that they're trialing as well?
Well, yeah, I saw they were trialing Leviathan, Critical.
Yeah.
I mean, those are also good players, but then I suppose we're just riding on Hazed as the in-game leader.
Right, that's the problem, right? That's what I was trying to get at as well, is that I feel like the core of this team is the issue. And that makes it very difficult to decide who your core should be moving forwards as well. Because when I watched TSM in the past, like at the beginning of the year, so from January to April, so it was their downward trajectory from being a tier 1 team into becoming a tier 2 team. They are a tier 2 team right now. And that downward trajectory to me was defined by them not understanding what comps they wanted to play, constantly changing stuff around, not understanding what roles they wanted to play. There was no vision there whatsoever for TSM. And when you watched them play as well, it was clear that they hadn't got any idea of like set stuff that they wanted to do on the map. No protocols had been built, probably because they were throwing their comps and roles around so much. And that all comes down to leadership. And I don't think that you can necessarily it is very possible that whoever you throw the IGL to is just not wanting that role and is not built for that role. You just don't seem to have somebody who's had success in a leadership scenario for TSM. Sabrosa's tried IGLing before, but we don't even know what role Sabrosa wants to play. Never mind IGLing. I don't think that's been particularly successful. FaZe, they weren't that great when FaZe was IGLing either. It didn't look like they had any more of a plan then. It feels like what they need is someone to come in and shake them down and just give them that leadership. And that's why I don't see any value to cutting people like Drone and replacing them with like Critical, for example. Levi has actually IGL'd in tier 2 teams apparently, but I don't know whether they're searching for that. I think they're just searching for the role.
You're not going to be able to bring an IGL from a tier 2 team unless this guy has the biggest balls of steel to just fucking come in and shake that shit up.
And you know who does? I think. Who? I'm going to say his name again, and I said that TSM should get him before. I think they should get Anderson, who's on Dark Zero. I said this a long time ago.
Dark Zero?
I was under the impression that he was, and
Anderson is good.
And watching his
very good.
Watching his stream, he has a big fucking personality as well. Like, I think first of all, he has like a big personality in that I think he could be.
Wait, no, Screwface is IGL in Dark Zero.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the Jett IGL, the mastermind of Dark Zero.
Okay, because at some point I heard that Anderson was leading when they were kooky koalas. I don't know if it's gone back and forth or whatever the situation is there. So I guess I'll say then, hypothetically, if Anderson has the skills to be an in-game leader, I will say he definitely has a big personality, and he seems like the kind of guy who would not be afraid to tell them what the fuck he wants.
Yep.
I think I think he is a viable option for that team.
Because the problem that TSM is in is that they need somebody who has the reputation or whatever, or the confidence to be able to come in and fix them. But they also are not in a position where those kind of people, they're not an attractive team to those kind of people. Those kind of people are better served moving to more established or teams with more potential. It's almost like working on a DIY project in your garage trying to fix TSM. It's more of what you would want to do as a side hobby. If you put your entire weight of your career into TSM, that's a big risk to try and take on a project that's that big. Yeah, the risk reward ratio doesn't really make sense for a lot of these talented team leaders coming up.
Get a big check. I mean,
it depends on where their situation is, right? Like if it's someone but it would still require them to branch out and be willing to drop members of their core. At the end of the day, these are all still going to most of the players I'm assuming they'd be able to find are going to be players that they need to fix their issues are going to be stuff within the core here, because I think most of us are in agreement that the core problem for TSM has never really been a talent thing. It's still just like how the team operates. And they still walk away from every tournament being like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. And it's like, how is at no point anyone said like, well, maybe we just need to replace more players, right? Like maybe we need to actually rebuild. I think they
would have considered Drone part of their core that they've cut right now, though, as well. I think this is them finally taking inroads into it, chipping away at the center, moving towards the problem. I think it's a really tough one to get to. And I don't envy Jett either. I don't really... it's not like we can see what's happening on the inside of the team. I don't know whether he's being helpful, but it's not a great situation to be in. There you go. There's the Pro-State exam.
It reminds me of one more thing, for people who follow basketball, like the Miami Heat back in 2011 when they got the big three, LeBron, Dwayne, and Bosh, and their coach, Eric Spoelstra, who was this up-and-comer guy, didn't really succeed that much. He was bringing back a team that was rebuilding. And the year that they came, they didn't respect him at all. They didn't give a shit. The core of that team, the big three, was just like, nope, we don't care what you have to say. We're going to do what we have to do. And they lost in the finals, whatever. The next year, he fucking shits on them and suddenly just drops the biggest set of balls and makes LeBron, Wade, all of them play together and whatever. That is, you either need somebody who could do that to TSM, or you need to break up the core. In my mind, that is the conclusion that I make when I look at what they're going to be changing and all the different things that they're going to be trying to do. If they don't do that, I don't think they'll be successful.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, moving on. Some of our other teams that made it through in some notable matches. Gen.G, XSET, and Envy all made it through as well, but all of these guys had pretty interesting games. XSET was able to win against Dark Zero. Those guys actually looked pretty promising, I think. New look XSET, which is where I'd like to begin because they didn't have the most interesting games. The others, we might want to dig into the matches a little more. But for XSET to be able to make it past Dark Zero, the addition of Def, I think, is a good look for this team. Not everything has been fleshed out. They don't look like the final product yet, but when you've added the firepower of Zekken and then also the just a bit more like structure that Def seems to bring, or at least him being able to find value through the lurks that he's on as well, this looks like a good team. This looks like a team that's got a lot of potential as well. They look like they've made the right moves.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think there's definitely still a lot of work to be done, but I am optimistic because, you know, I've always BCJ, Nuts, Pure, been pretty good, and Aaron's always been relatively solid. So, like, I think having Def there in particular is going to, because they just weren't, it seems like they weren't finding the synergy they needed with Weeded, even though I think Weeded was like really, really good on like the controller role when he played it. So Def hopefully is going to help them, because I think that's the big thing for XSET, right? Is like, it never really was a talent problem for them, right? It was fixing attack halves consistently. That was like the problem that owned them. So hopefully now that if they have some time to build and they're already looking like relatively solid, that this is going to be the iteration where they can fix those attack half issues and really reach their peak.
Did you see them play on Breeze? Did you see the comp that they were running on Breeze with the Cypher Killjoy? I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if you can bring up a clip of it, Kurt. It was XSET playing against Dark Zero on Breeze, and they're running Cypher Killjoy, and they just trip all of the flank, and then they play it like 4-1 on a site and just work it for a minute. And they just know for the entire minute that everyone can look forwards because their flanks are being held. It feels like it's going to be very... And then you've also got Def being able to go on more lurks, even though he's playing the Cypher role. I don't know. It's cool. They're showing us different stuff.
Yeah,
I like it for Breeze a lot. I like the comp for Breeze a lot because there's just so much space to control at times. So it's pretty interesting to have like the double Sentinel.
Yeah, it was like both of the Sentinels.
One of the biggest things
active.
is the flank watching on Breeze is so crucial and so important. I think there's some stat out there that like flanks are so much more unbelievably successful that like going for them is 100% like a guaranteed value, something like that. So this responds to that really nicely. I think I only got to watch this kind of gimmicky game. I like only caught glimpses of the other ones, but to talk to like the issue previously with XSET, it always was game plan. It always was like the strategic approach, the tactics that come out of those approaches that felt lackluster. And at least on the Breeze game, it felt much different. It felt like their site hits had some oomph behind them. There were reasons why they were throwing the utility that there were, and they were happening at good times, which I think was always missing for XSET previously, where they thrived on the fundamentals. They always were very good at trading well, getting to places together and stuff like that. And that's why they actually did manage to gain a couple of those rounds where like strategically it's like, well, is this really going to work? So Def seems to be the guy that's bringing that. And that is exciting to me. That is really exciting to me.
Yeah.
Any passing thoughts on, or rather, I guess just to round this out, any thoughts on them bringing in Zekken to replace Thwifo? Because that didn't that happened within this past week.
We thought they were going to have a 6-man roster.
Yeah, last we thought it was a 6-man roster. Then Thwifo was, by management decision, been dispensed from the roster.
I think I like it. I mean, I was down with Thwifo as well. I think that he was pretty good actually. But moving Arten over to Sentinel and opening up for a player with a lot of skill to be added to XSET could turn them into a team that can punch up, like further than they were able to as well. I'm not exactly sure where the ceiling for Zekken is. He was farming the unsigned teams that they were playing in the bracket. He had like the third highest ACS or something, just wailing through teams. And then I think one of these maps against Dark Zero, he popped off as well, but he was relatively quiet. On
I'm sure you could find the clip, Kurt. He hit a ridiculous clutch against Dark Zero on this map.
He's clearly very skilled, and I think that is probably one of those tough decisions to make, but helpful for the long-term moves for XSET too, where maybe, you know, getting a bit more firepower out of your duelist who's up at the front, or he was playing Sky in some of these games as well, but like the person that's going up at the tip of the spear, I think that could be really helpful for XSET.
Yeah, I agree.
I think.
Sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, I think it was a tough move that had to be made, but it probably is going to be beneficial long term, and Thwifo can still be on a good team elsewhere. Make a team with Drone. Get those two together. Get Thwifo, Drone, and Poise on a team. That's kind of nasty. Anyone?
I mean, who knows?
Listen, if anyone is listening to this with millions of dollars,
with Shroud as well. Shroud said he's looking for a VC.
And Dicey, just add Dicey too. Fuck it.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Well, we'll have a trialing process because I'd like to see where AZK's at.
Yeah, I think Zekken is literally. He solves a lot of problems for me with XSET, and I'm really sad to see Thwifo go because that was one of the main reasons why I really was cheering XSET on. But Zekken seems to me like somebody who has star power. He's going to build a brand because he's just, if he gets looks on like the main stage broadcast type of stuff, he's going to become an Asuna for this team. Like straight up, he's going to be that type of guy who everybody's going to be like, holy shit. And they're going to root for XSET now, which I thought was such a massive problem. Like, yeah, we're rooting for Thwifo, but nobody's really like outside of their personalities and just like their history and whatnot. Nobody's going there to like watch the gameplay, even though they're fantastic players. For Zekken, it's going to be like, yeah.
You think
like,
they're going to bring the star power, the flashiness that people need to run the set?
Yeah.
You are that guy, pal. You are that guy.
Also,
amen.
Just laughing to myself earlier at you saying the thing about the flanks being 100% just go for flanks. There's value there. I'm just laughing to myself thinking like, dude, I'm never playing ranked with Josh again. I'm never.
Balla told me he gave no source and no specific numbers, but he said go for flanks all the time. They're always valuable. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. Actually, I want to continue talking about Breeze, though, with our next team, which is Gen.G. Gen.G in the Ambox game.
So good, man.
Gen.G gave me flashes of when they first started playing Icebox, too, when they just understood the value of working these weird areas of the map. Do you remember when Icebox first came out and they were one of the first teams to really explore tube and mid and create problems for other teams? And the meta at the time in North America was just, we go A, we go B, and you just beat the war drums and power your way in, assemble the musket line.
Fire off the vuvuzela.
Yeah. GMD played Brimstone on Breeze and got really big value out of it.
His lurks were immense. And he
played lurking Brimstone and he was great at it.
What was great
That's
about
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
fucking lurk.
What was great about it though was the way he was able to work halls by just putting down the one smoke at the end of it, because it would just last. Halls it's long, it's narrow. When you're walking through it, you feel like you're in danger the whole time because you kind of are. Yeah. And having the deep smoke in the hall that lasts a long time because you're playing Brimstone, it gives you a lot of time to actually work through halls, be a nuisance there. I was really curious as to what was going to be happening with Gen.G because I knew the behind the scenes, they run all types of comps on every map. Their players are playing tons of different agents. I mean, you saw in that series alone, like GMD played Brim, Omen, and Raze. 3 different players played Viper on each map.
Kusta was playing Jett.
Kusta was playing, they're like, trying really ton of shit. And that can either be very cool and work, or it can go wrong because you're asking a lot of your players.
It's like
when
beginning
of
the year TSM.
Yeah, I mean,
we were saying, oh, it's cool they're running so many comps, and then they just spiral downwards.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it I know comes from the coach MC, and he's asking a lot of his players in doing this, right? I mean, they have to do a lot playing this many roles, being able to succeed on all of them, and they did. I mean, I thought this Breeze attack was played beautifully.
It was, yeah.
On all of the maps on attack, their manipulation of the defense rotations were just excellent. I mean, well, really mostly the first two. On the third one on Split, they kind of, I don't know, it was giving me some like a new turn kind of energy on Split, where they were just doing these fast hits with GMD double satcheling in, the Jett dashing in. And then on the previous two maps, on Breeze and Icebox on Attack, their manipulation of the defense rotations and then the value they were getting off lurks was so good. And then also, by the way, GMD, the fucking range. I mean, he's lurking on the first two maps, just cracking open these rounds by, they would pressure towards B early on Breeze. Then they'd start slowly rotating back to A, and then GMD would be ready all the way up mid to catch rotates while they're hitting into A. I mean, and then on the third map, he's playing Raze, double satchel entrying, and just feasting. Like, yeah. I mean, he just had a crazy series. I thought their attack halves were excellent. The fact that they're making this work with all these different comps is sick. I am very excited to see more of Gen.G right now.
They did utterly shit the bed on their Icebox defense.
Yeah, I mean, that was where it felt. That was the part of the series that was not good.
It felt a bit like the Cloud9 Rise game earlier, where a team shows you a lot of good stuff on one half, and then they just beef the other half and lose the map. That's what it felt like watching Gen.G on their Icebox game. But I also was not very impressed with Andbox. Like, I think that this team was getting a lot of hype, and I didn't see almost any of it. I felt like, I mean, maybe the only half that I could really point to was the Andbox attacking half on Icebox, and I don't even think that was them playing particularly great. I think it was Gen.G whiffing and mispositioning and misplaying their comp a lot. I think that they really didn't understand how to play the defense, and Andbox were almost gifted that half if they just played a regular, decent game. The rest of the time, big underperformance compared to expectations for me for Andbox. I thought this team might be really doing something.
Yeah, I feel like I'm reticent to start going on the Gen.G hype train, though. It's happened before. But this current roster iteration and the way they were playing, in particular the range, like you talked about, their agent pool seems great right now for this team. The agent pool seems really, really good. They seem like they're able to bring out like a lot of different looks on different maps, whether it be from like the lurking or like a much more aggressive style, like we saw when GMD went over to the Raze. So, and I like that they're integrating Kusta more and more from like just playing, like having nature now allows Kusta to kind of do a lot more as well. So I'm really interested in watching this team moving forward, because maybe they've fixed some of the issues where they just didn't seem dynamic enough, and having a better agent pool and also being able to have different looks because of that could be the exact solution they need. But I'm still afraid to go too deep on the Gen.G hype train just yet and be burned once more, because it's the cycle of Gen.G. Early tournament cycle, Gen.G pulls out something crazy. We're like, okay, yeah. And then just like, so yeah.
They did make third in Masters 1, right?
True. Yeah, that is true.
That was their biggest.
But I think this roster is going to be really good for them, though. I think this, having the amount of flexibility that they have now, is probably the thing they needed the most, was just the ability to have a lot of different looks and not be stuck in like a weird agent situation.
I didn't get to watch this game, so I don't really have any comments.
Okay. All right. I was waiting for the thoughts. It is really interesting though, what they're doing with the roster, what they're doing with the players. Like, it's a cool team to watch. I don't really have too much more to say on Andbox, because I want to see them play again the next time around, because it still is quite a developing roster with the addition of Stanny, but I was kind of hoping for an elevation. The other team that we're talking about here is Envy. Envy played against T1, and so we'll talk about Envy a bit, and then the other side of the coin too. Envy
T1.
Well, hold your horses here.
Okay.
Envy finish out the series with a 13-0 drubbing on Haven.
Yeah.
So, the narrative from their point of view, I think, is that they warmed up as the match went on. Envy are absolutely expected to take that game. When you're watching that series, does Envy look like they have the potential to be able to, make it super deep? And are they the old Envy that inspires that level of confidence in you all?
I think their expectations should be in line with kind of what they've always been with Envy. Like, they are a top 4 team. They're going to make top 4 finishes. They look that good. I appreciate that I do like the switch with. I like seeing Mummy on the Jett. That was one of the things I was looking forward to. I think he's one of those players, at least at the moment, where it feels like the consistency isn't always there, but his highs are ridiculous. Like he has a knack. He's one of the Jett or just oppers period that like he has a knack for hitting the really hard to hit shots with a pretty ridiculous level of consistency for how hard the shots are to hit. But then he'll also on the other side of that, like he'll have games where there's a lot of, I guess, like easier shots, or he'll
the Draken effect.
I don't know what that means, but sure.
Oh,
okay, but sure.
Could only hit the hard shots.
Oh, okay,
not
yeah,
the easy ones.
but he, I think, okay, yeah, sure. I do think he has that to some extent. But if he has his level of consistency pretty high, I think that would be huge for them. But I like this Envy roster right now. I think Victor was looking way better on Raze than he had in the past, especially on this bind map.
Yeah, because that had been a struggle point for them previously. His hero pool had been, or agent pool, sorry, had essentially just been like he will pop off if he's on Phoenix.
Right.
And then outside of that, you're getting a bit more of a mediocre performance.
But yeah, I liked his look on the Raze. I think Marv was looking good on the team. I think he slotted in nicely. I mean, I think even despite losing the first map, he was even looking good on that one. He was the catalyst of the round wins just from finding value on the lurk. It seems to be, after watching a roster move that does make sense. It does fit in. So yeah, I mean, I think Envy are looking to be pretty much where they've always been. They can make a top 4 run. They look like they're going to be a contender to get one of the 3 slots to make it to Berlin. And I think
one of the 3?
Yeah, there's 3 for NA.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And I think anything less, I think if they are anything less than like, yeah, I think top 4, top 5, that would be a pretty disappointing finish for them.
Are you on board with the same kind of thing, Avast and Balla?
Balla, you go first.
I am willing to cautiously admit that my take on Marv joining this team was wrong so far, based off.
What was your take? Sorry, can you remind us?
My take was that he was not gonna fit in this team because he is somebody who tries to do too much, and just like, I think they're all friends, and I think they wanted to like that. I basically thought that they were too buddy with Marv, and they were just trying to slot him in because of friendship and not because he is a good piece in the team. But I feel like he did 2 things. Number 1, he was actually playing, like, he could play that supportive role without feeling like he needed to do too much, which enabled him to make good plays when he needed to. And number 2, it unlocks Mame, which is what we already knew was going to happen. But Mame is able to flex not only to Jett to bring out, you know, the crazy opping that we know he can have, but to other roles as well. And before, it was like, who was it? It was Caboose going to Sage. That felt kind of lackluster. Mame feels like somebody who definitely will fit in these roles and explode on them in a way that they didn't have before, so they could play wider compositionally.
Right.
So these 2 things in my mind,
problem are fixed to some degree.
Yeah. Which I mean, I'm a broken record with that on
Yeah,
Envy. I mean,
but it really
I feel like
was
I've
the
been
problem.
saying that since they first signed Food and Crashes, but
yeah, it just didn't really make sense.
Finally, it does finally make sense. And also it alleviates other small issues too, where like if they are playing in scrims and they're like, okay, shit, should we have Victor trying to play Omen on this map? Let's try him with Sage on bind. It does clear up things like that where he can just have more valuable practice time playing the other duelists.
Sure.
And just hone his skills on that, which is perhaps what we saw here as to why his Raze looked so much more explosive than it had in the past.
Yeah, and I mean, bind is a pretty close game between the 2 teams as well. Haven, they 13-0 destroy them, but to me that felt like I mean, Envy looked great, don't get me wrong. I feel like T1 had maybe with this new roster just not really understood how they wanted to play Haven at all, because they just looked like they were just floundering utterly in that game. You have to flounder in order to get 13-0'd as well, I suppose, so it's not the greatest analysis in the world. But map 1, my T1.
Yeah.
Holy.
I mean,
Envy had no answer for what T1 were doing in mid. And I was doing a VOD review of that yesterday as well. And I was really struggling to come up with an answer too, even with the benefit of, pausing the VOD and looking at it all and seeing everyone on the map. And I'm like thinking at it from an analyst point of view, it's way easier to do our job than it is to do the players, because we see everything. We have perfect information and we can, take time to ponder it. We don't have to think about crosshair placement and playing the game itself. It's like an infinite timeout if you want it to be. And even when I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's a fucking challenge. Like that. What do you do against that? Maybe you try and like contact a mid to avoid getting caught by the Astra Star. If we can take a look at some of these rounds where Envy was playing against T1 on split mid, they had a really great understanding of how to combo the Astra, the Raze, the Viper, and then Killjoy locking down one of the sites. That almost completely stumped Envy. I loved it. This was, I mean, I don't want to inflate your ego too much, but this is like a good look for T1. This really feels like they have identified and done a good job of solving the problems that were afflicting them previously in terms of their style.
I completely agree. And I mean, we just saw them on screen there playing the Raze, but I think Automatic's improvement has also been the catalyst for a lot more mid or early round proactive play from T1. Like there were on some of the rounds, he like they would have info that Envy were working up a ramp, and then Automatic and Curry would just try to work those players. Curry would send in the flash. Automatic would pressure from lower. The nade would come in. He'd swing aggressively. I mean, they were playing proactively off utility in early and mid rounds to get kills, which is just... It was great to see. Automatic looks so much more comfortable now.
Yeah, it's almost as well like Automatic is playing... This might sound a little silly, but like a supportive Raze where they're feeding him the kills with the utility. It's not like the kills come to Automatic a lot of the time when he's holding mid in that defensive situation as well, where there's so much utility pressure on Envy that they're always disadvantaged when they're fighting Automatic by the end of it. And it felt like he was comfortable, like he didn't have to extend himself. They had a team system that just worked and delivered him an advantage in the gun duels he was taking. Like that's a really good functioning system.
You could see that they were so much faster at helping each other in a lot of these spots as well. If they felt they had a player caught, they would just pounce on him with like 2-3 guys. I mean, this was the best map we've seen from T1 in I don't know how long. A long time, man. I was really glad to see it.
The other thing as well is that people were... Sorry, go on, Balla. I'll get to this afterwards.
They were starting to improve on split specifically before this. I think they were playing Astra Omen in that, and everybody was like, what the hell's going on? This is so weird. But I think that this game showed kind of how that the ideas that they had with that can be implemented even with this comp specifically, and why it was good for them. One concern, though, that I have is that they are so, like, they only bring a big improvement to one map at a time. At first, it was Icebox all the way back. This is with different rosters. It was the days and whatnot, but it was Icebox. They brought Viper out, and it was like one of the few NA teams that were playing it. They boomed 100 Thieves. They got shit on by Sentinels anyways because it's Sentinels. But then in the last stage, it started to become split, and it seems to me that it might still continue to be split and there won't be anything else, which is what scares me.
Well, I think as long as teams don't ban Icebox against them, which, okay, maybe teams will, but if they can get teams that like playing Icebox, then their map pool, it's not atrocious. You know, you've still got Icebox there, you've got Split, and they can play a competent bind. Their bind didn't look bad. They played a close game against Envy. It wasn't atrocious. Their Haven, not good, and they banned Breeze, so they probably haven't done that same development on Breeze. But what is that? I suppose we didn't get to Ascent either, so I have no idea whether they're any good on Ascent. But that's 3 out of 6 of the pool that they look good at. They're getting
my
there.
point isn't the pool, though. My point is that they're so slow to improve that their other maps suffer because of it, I guess. It's like they're not doing anything on these other maps that because they're working so hard on this or something like that. Because to me, it always looks like, oh, well, their bind is the same as always. I mean, Curry is... I didn't super watch this game. I was watching kind of on my second monitor, but like Don was playing Viper and he was doing the same type of stuff that Curry was doing before, and just didn't look like they changed much. Except I guess they did add Sky. I didn't really see that much on that game, but still, like, it's those types of things that make me scared for whether T1 will actually improve enough to become to answer these questions of, hey, are they going to finally be good again?
I
You
will
know?
say they did look really drilled on bind. Like their executes, these bursts that they were running had a lot of like well-placed utility to set themselves up really well, and you could tell that they were like running it. Like everyone knew where they were pathing as they hit the site. It wasn't like they were scrambling, improvising on the fly. So I think they've got some maps at least that they look good at. Like it at least looks like they've been able to keep bind fresh whilst working on split and working on icebox. So I think this will be helped and be part of that direction as Days leaves and the new direction for the team under Curry and David Denis has been more successful. I also thought Dawn looked really good. Like the Viper setups on split especially were really, really good. I haven't really seen anyone use the smoke in the same way as like the cyber cages to get into the A site, which I thought was really impressive. I don't know, it makes me wonder whether they're just going to want to stick with Dawn for the future too, if they end up having more success in the next qualifier. So
yeah, maybe.
I could see that.
I mean, I feel like it's also when you see in particular their split play, and sort of how they've evolved on these maps, like you should have some hope that traditionally, yes, T1 is really, really slow with bringing up their map pool, I think, up to speed for everything. But if you understand the fundamentals of like, here's how we're setting up our hold here, right? And here's how our utility is going to interact. As soon as you understand those fundamentals of like what your comps that you're generally revolving around playing for each map, and you know how you want to combo your things, it should be a bit faster to apply those fundamentals to all the other maps, right? Like, okay, here's a really strong area where we can combo this, this, and this, and like peak aggressively, or like we can swing off the fact that this piece of utility got a maybe our Sky hit a flash and like automatically going to swing, and like we're always going to throw nade, right? So there's a lot of options that as soon as you understand these combos and where they're effective, T1 should be able to apply these same principles to other maps. So considering how good they looked on split, I would hope they would also take some of those like lessons and apply them to the other maps and like Ascent once we see that and things like that. So I feel a little bit optimistic when you see how well they were using their utility and playing off it on split in particular, and then also bind in a way that they should be better moving forward.
Yeah.
I think some of these guys, I think this was a nice little, despite getting rocked on the third map, and I also think that Envy were just popping the fuck off on the third map. Haven is, I mean, aside from Sen, Envy are the team that just always, they can just wreck you on that map. I mean, that is a map where Mummy is pretty consistently insane. Victor is going to play Phoenix, and he's just going to run into your face. I mean, so that aside, I do feel like there is some confidence to be gained here as well from T1. Specifically, I think for Rax, I mean, he was nasty. He had probably his best map in God knows how long.
Not playing Duelist, by the way.
And
we thought he might be on Duelist because people were talking up his Jett. He wasn't. He was playing Killjoy and then Sova.
Yeah, and automatic, just turning up. So, excited to see T1 in the next.
Well, moving on from that, Sentinels lost their first map in months at this point. It's their first map since they last played in, what was it, like the 1st of May. It was their final domestic game where they ended up dropping a map. They didn't drop a map throughout the entirety of Reykjavik. They come in, they 2-0 EG, and then instantly, as soon as they get back to domestic play where they don't do a ton of scouting and they're playing on LAN, etc., they drop a map again, this time to Sonics on Icebox. Now, they shit on them the next two maps. It was like 13-5, 13-5. But on Icebox, they kind of got boomed themselves. Like, they didn't feel like they were in this game. Sonics were clearly outplaying them from the rip. So talk to me about this one. Balla, I can see you nodding away. Tell me about Sonics. Why could Europe not get a single map of Sentinels, but Australia can? Is Australia the second best region?
Confirmed.
Confirmed. Yeah, might as well give them another slot. Why not? They were bringing so much new shit at Sentinels that you could see Sentinels literally do what they do best, which is adapt. But there's just so much of it that it's hard to actually do. On this map, the map that they lost, I don't know how many times. I feel like Tens was maybe having an off day or something like that. But it felt like every single round, Sonics was getting the first kill. Like every single round. And when Sentinels did win the round, it was always mind-blowing to me because it was like it was 3 versus 5 or something like that right off the rip. But I mean, they went up 6-0, 6-0 on
Yeah,
this, and then they
6-0,
end the
yeah.
half with some crazy ass fucking like we're gonna push CT spawn plants with the Sage wall, like some
I
really
like
really
that a
cool
lot.
geeky stuff with the Viper wall deep like horizontally instead of like diagonally cutting up the site so that they can peek off of it. It was just really cool, and this series was one of the funnest series to watch in general, just because of how you could literally see the old adage that everybody puts about Sentinels, like, oh, they're the guys who can adapt to everything, like doesn't matter what you throw at them, because it was happening in front of you. It wasn't like this secret shit that was going on that only Shazam knows in his brain, like, oh, we're counter-stratting this. No, it was like literally, wow, that was the first time I've ever seen that. It's probably the first time Sentinels has ever seen that too, and here's how they respond.
Yeah.
They were doing it on Bind and Haven too, but it just at that point it was just like Sentinels was on full steam.
I feel like you kind of mischaracterized. I was ready to pounce when you were like, "Well, they got rolled on the next two maps." They didn't really get rolled on Bind. That score line is the 13-5 on Bind is really deceiving. They lost 3 clutches in the first half.
Right.
So I think that certainly looks more one-sided than the game actually was. It was really only on the second half when Sen were on defense that they were just stringing rounds together towards the end of the game.
I must say, I only watched Icebox, so I was just characterizing that off the scoreline. I didn't get a chance to see
You're the exact person I'm trying to let know that game was much closer than the score.
That was also 10's Yoru, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, man, that fucking Icebox game from Sonics was beautiful. I mean, the number of different executes they had on attack. On defense, their retakes were they were fast. They were trading for each other so effectively. They were all in. They were just swarming Sen when they would get onto the A site. It was an excellent game from them. And, I mean, Sonics have I think Sonics are going to be really dangerous in this next qualifier. They're another one of those teams, though, that they've just been playing every single tournament. They've been grinding crazy hard.
Yes.
They really want it. Their confidence looks way higher than when obviously from when we first saw them, but that should be the case.
I mean, I thought they played really well even when we first saw them. Like the first 13-10 that they lost to Sentinels on Icebox, they were coming at them, they were like giving it to Sentinels.
But
they just
now
never quite translated it on.
They have a way different comfort level now, it looks like. And that should be the case. I mean, they earned that comfort level by putting in the work over the past couple months, playing every tournament, playing fucking all day long.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys have been going hard. I mean, if we want to talk about the Bind, Sen,
well, I have another question just about this map as well, because when I was watching, it also got me thinking that Sentinels did make a change from Reykjavik, a literal compositional swap between Dapper and Sick. They went back to what was not working for them previously that much, which was with Dapper playing onto the Sova. And Dapper didn't have an atrocious game, but there were certainly some scenarios where, like the round that we showed earlier, the 4th round, where Tens gets caught up on pipes, that's normally a situation, I feel, where he has someone behind him, like Shaz or like Sick, who are covering for his escape. And in that scenario, he's just on pipes and he gets overwhelmed and he tries to run away and he just gets caught. And there's nobody else from Sentinels who's there because Dapper's in the back of sight droning for him. What were there other moments that caught your eye like that, where you feel that could have been a bit of a difference maker as well? Like a tiny window that opened an opportunity for Sonics to take advantage of it? I'm not trying to take away from Sonics, but I'm saying, was this still Sentinels playing at like Reykjavik level, I guess?
There were tiny glimpses of like Dapper playing, like Dapper Omega Lollies playing Sova, like the round where there's the Viper's Pit on A and like he misses the dart that lands right in front of where, but it wasn't game-breaking differences in my mind. For Icebox, I don't know if the answer to your question is like, oh, they're Reykjavik level, but I think on the other two maps, I feel like they were.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. The other two maps, Sentinels are still in Sentinels mode. Yeah, they haven't skipped a beat. Okay. The next two maps, they were still playing insane. Bind, again, deceptive scoreline. They were running the Yoru with Tens for the first time. Evidently, he's been trying that in practice. I liked it. I mean, I think people, maybe there's like a default. I think people. I don't know.
Yoru, Omega Lol?
Yeah, it's still just
People
Yoru,
meme it
Omega
'cause
Lol.
it's Yoru.
But if there's any map to play Yoru, it's definitely Bind, because first of all, it's the only map where the footsteps have any level of relevancy, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Given the TPs.
And the
right?
prevalence of raise too. Like it literally has both of those aspects where where the footsteps can genuinely be useful.
So this is the only map where that ability finds any value. And also, just at least in the case of Sen, I thought that on defense they were playing with the Yoru pretty well. You know, you set the TP somewhere back in spawn. Tens would go for an aggressive play off the drone or something, pushing down B long, go for a kill, TP out. I mean, they were playing it in an aggressive, cool way, and I think that's where Yoru finds most of the value. On attack, it's kind of up in the air. Like, he would, try to use the dimensional drift to get all the info on the B site, take some space, try and pressure behind, and then TP out. And it's fine. It's not bad, but Yoru's value, in my eyes, is definitely just on defense. And I think Sen were doing a great job with it on defense.
Do you feel like it's better than him playing the Reyna? Because that's what he would have been playing there. That's a nasty clutch by Dapper, by the way. That's absolutely
that's what
nasty.
I'm talking about. I mean, that's why the game looked one-sided,
yeah, fair
by the
enough.
way.
But the previous comp they were running was the Raze Reyna setup. And Tens was able to find crazy value, like being able to entry for them. Not necessarily getting that much value out of Reyna the kit, but just being super smart in terms of where he was positioning himself and how he was playing off everybody. That was my impression of it.
I think that it could be better than the Reyna. Just there was glimpses that they always failed these moments. It was like 2v1s or just like team play moments between Tens and somebody else where you could just see like having an extra flash that isn't shootable that you have to turn from just gives you the ability to like double peek something together. It just failed every time with Tens that day for some reason. Any other flasher, it probably would have worked. He just was like slightly too fast on the peaks or slightly too fast in the timing, and it just failed because of that.
Maybe just getting used to it.
Like, maybe just getting used to it. Yeah. The double orb control, the fast rotates on CT, the ability to actually add something extra to the executes outside of just one Reyna flash, in my mind, are really, really critical. And it allows him to cheat much, much more. Like lurk a little bit, go a little bit more. Yeah, like he was peeking out a bathroom and dying because of it. But with Reyna, like he can't do that because he has to be walking back to the other side of the site or other side of the map where he's going to be joining the execute. So he could do that stuff, peek out a bathroom, and then be ready to do the B execute.
Right.
Yeah, I legitimately didn't mind the Yoru either, actually. Like I felt like it's also interesting as like a long-term prospect for Sentinels because it gives the opportunity to start seeing Tens potentially expand his role a tad and how he slots into the team with this Yoru experiment. And if they can find a way to like maximize the value of Tens and also like integrate some very unorthodox strategies with them where you can still pop off like with Yoru, where you can get like very aggressive peaks and still be in time with a rotate to be part of an execute or be part of like a site hold, it would be really, really cool. I think I legitimately think that the Yoru experiment on Bind is not actually a terrible experiment and could hold a lot of value for them, not just within that map, but within like the long-term slotting of Tens and just Sentinels overall like strategy.
I think everyone is going to assume that Sentinels are the massive favorites to be able to make it to Berlin in the number one slot. But let's take a look at the rest of the bracket as well. We want to do some NA main event predictions. The European games are already going on right now as well, but North America, I mean, those are is that the main event that's happening today?
Those are the main event.
Yes, main event. Yep.
But North America doesn't start for another couple of days, so we can do some proper predictions. So here we go then. Taking a look through the bracket, we won't do the entire way through, but we'll at least do maybe the upper or something and maybe talk about some big matchups that could happen in the lower. First of all, version 1, 100 Thieves. Version 1 have clearly been going deeper in recent times. Do we expect this trend to continue?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even they have a sub in Thief, but it's still, I mean, he's just slotting into the duelist roles that Dulcis would be playing with the Reyna Phoenix. And at the end of the day, Thief has crazy aim. And if he just clicks on people's heads, they're fine. Like, it's really not that.
How big of an upset would this be if 100 Thieves wins? Because I think a lot of people would be expecting this to be a banger of a match. I don't think it's going to be a banger of a match, But I think the community perspective would be 100 Thieves, big name, good players. They've made it deep in tournaments before. Version 1 just made it to Reykjavik. This should be a fantastic game. What's your percentage chance that it is a good game, or that 100 Thieves get the win and the 100 Thieves fans are mega happy here?
I mean, honestly, I think if 100 Thieves, if this is a 3-map series and 100 Thieves keep it close but lose, I think even I would be surprised at that even being the case.
Really?
Honestly.
Yeah.
I think this should just end in 2.
That's what it looks like.
100 Thieves look pretty... They look just as uninspiring compared to what a lot of the teams have evolved, especially the teams that have made it now out of this open qual. They just seem slow, and they seem like that old lion. It's that old lion. That's the team. Yeah. So I think version 1 are pretty handily favorites. This.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on then. Envy Pioneers. Is there a hope in hell?
No. I would say no. Envy are looking good. They don't look like an upsettable Envy right now, though that oft becomes the case deep in the tournaments. But early on, they never really falter against the upcoming teams.
Okay.
They usually just swat them away.
Yeah.
So I think this should be a clean Envy win.
I don't see Envy not making it to through this qualifier, and especially through this match. Like, they're so good in these qualifiers. Always. And they looked even decent against T1. So I don't expect us to go any other way except for 2-0.
All right. Well, 2 relatively decisive games then. Yeah. Now on to one I think is going to be a low-key banger. XSET Rise. I think that's going to be a poppin' game, personally.
Okay.
I was very impressed with Rise coming out of the Cloud9 game. I thought that they played a really good game. And I think that XSET, though they are normally pretty resistant against being upset, are still, even though I was impressed and they look like they have a lot of potential, they don't look like the finished product yet. They were still struggling with some of the burst execs that Dark Zero were doing on them. They hadn't set up their default positioning of utility at the beginning of the round. Doesn't look like it's been completely fleshed out for them. Some of Def's Astra utility and the Killjoy utility was not coordinated in terms of how they'd stacked it up, so it was leading to issues for them. I think that if XSET fumble a little bit here, there is still an opportunity for Rise to be able to make this a damn good game, and what a run that would be to be able to upset C9 and then XSET. Is anyone else buying the Rise stocks in this game? I'm not saying I would predict them, but I think it's going to be good.
I think that's very reasonable. I would still go with XSET. I still think I think it should be a pretty close game. Could certainly be a 2-1. Could certainly be like a 2-1 that goes the distance on multiple maps. But I would give the edge still to XSET. Despite them being a newer roster, I have more faith in the consistency of a lot of players on that team versus Rise, where, we were kind of joking about Superman playing like he was on Homeless in PAX Arena, but genuinely, he's had 2 nasty tournaments.
You don't expect that every time.
He hasn't proven to me that I should expect that every time.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of my thing. And then who else am I? And it's not that these guys on Rise are bad by any means, but am I relying on Shank's consistency? Whose consistency am I relying on here?
Derek.
Derek
from Overwatch.
Derek from Overwatch?
Derek from Overwatch.
I think that's kind of the thing holding me back from selling myself on the Rise upset. I believe in the consistent level of guys like BCJ and Pure and Zekken more than Rise at the moment.
Sure.
I also don't think that Def is going to fall into the same pitfall that C9 did, where they just get abused by the Astra utility and Killjoy utility, locking down chokes and just walking into that. I suspect that XSET will be they'll be playing more successful attack cabs than that. I don't think they're just going to get beasted by Superman locking down the site on his own.
Quite an interesting thought experiment, though, because that has been something that XSET have struggled with in the past. So, if they were to repeat the problems of the past with those attacking halves, then you could see a similar situation. But you're saying that you expect it to be
but even then,
different with Def.
If they did the same thing they did back then, they never ran fast hits.
No.
They would stand outside of a site and wait there for a minute and a half.
The 100 Thieves strat.
And if they And if they do that, even
right out
then,
of Steele's book.
they might have a better chance of just drawing out some utility before the actual site hit comes in, you know?
All right.
So I'm going to go with XSET. So
What about you two?
I'm feeling XSET myself. That's why I'm just going XSET. I don't think Rise. I think Rise got really lucky. Not lucky. I think they just matched up well versus C9 in that C9 hadn't. They're not fleshed out enough currently to deal with the way that Rise was playing, and their style was very much just like pop hit. And XSET, I feel confident enough with the depth change and their overall experience that like this team will know how to deal with like if Rise are going to play slow site holds, give up a lot of mid control type of situations. I feel like XSET will be okay with working the map more.
I think that XSET should win, but here's the thing. I think that this relies on what happens with the 6-map pool, because in my mind, Rise is going to win split no matter what. If that map comes through, and I think that if somehow, some way, I know XSET hasn't really been playing Icebox, but if it goes to Breeze or Icebox somehow, then they could really. I think we're gonna see the Shanks versus Pure show, and it's gonna be op v op, and it's gonna be so lit to watch. But XSET will come through, and I feel like we're also in the midst of a transformative thing for XSET, where they're going to be expanding their strats on all sorts of different maps, and we'll see that in this event. And because of that, I think we might not necessarily see exactly the types of things, the same pitfalls from XSET that we were before. This will be new, and it should go to XSET.
Okay. Well, Sentinels Gen.G. Is anyone... I mean, I know that you were very impressed with Gen.G.
Yeah.
I know you're a big Gen.G simp.
Yep. I've been...
Any hope in this game against the best team in the world?
I've been trying to tell you about GMD for a year.
Yeah. What can GMD do against the might of
Here's
Sentinels?
The thing. This has always been an interesting matchup in NA. I mean, if you want to go all the way back to the dawn of Valorant, Gen.G were one of the teams that Sentinels would struggle with, even if Gen.G were lower ranked than like TSM or some of that. So there is an interesting matchup, I think, in that regard. Also participants in the infamous White Claw fiasco.
True.
But I think from watching Sentinels against Sonics, Sentinels are just still in God mode. On that last Haven map, I mean, you saw that one judge round where Tens just kills 3 people with the judge. The next round, he just runs into the Sonics attacker spawn with daggers and kills 4 people. I mean, they're still just in God mode, and I think that's going to be too much for Gen.G, but I think this match is going to be a banger. I think Gen.G are going to keep it close, but I think this would be an upset if we were seeing like Sentinels pre-Iceland.
Yeah.
I think Gen.G in their current form would get the upset win. But right now, I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay.
Now, that being said, I do still think they have a chance. They absolutely have a chance. And I think this is going to be a close banger of a game.
You just can't call it against the best team in the world.
I just can't say it when you watch what Sentinels did to Sonics on Bind and Haven, and also just what Sonics had to do to beat them on Icebox.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see it right now.
Okay. Well,
so
if we make the assumption that Sentinels will run into the upper final, which I think is a very fair assumption, I want to look at the other upper semi-final that would happen on the other side. Avast, Envy Simp, Balla, Envy Simp.
About anymore.
Oh, well, yeah, former,
what is this?
Perhaps. I mean, you were saying that you expected Envy to run through this qualifier. I'm assuming that both of you are back in Envy in the Envy versus version 1 game. But that
I see.
But I think that's counter to how most people would expect that game to go, because version 1 were the team that actually did end up making it deeper recently. Talk to me about this upper semi-final game of Avast. What are you thinking here if it does end up being Envy version 1?
I mean, no joke. God damn, I hate that you labeled me the Envy Simp, because I don't even want to be the Envy Simp. But I legitimately do think this Marved, this Marv swap has been really good for them here, because it's fixed their roles. And on top of that, Marved is like a really good talent. And legitimately, I think it was like the inverse of what you were thinking, Balla, where like you thought like, oh, he's gonna be in a team of friends, so we're just gonna like play however we want, right? But I think that's actually what was happening with FaZe, where like Marv was just one of the fucking sheesh boys on FaZe, and they were kind of just like, yeah, I'm fucking Lambo swinging here yet again on Haven Sewers, and like I think actually going to Envy has actually made that a little bit less crazy. And they're able to unlock the potential of Marv a little bit more and bring him more in line with how you want him to be playing on a non-sheesh boy team. And so, fuck. I hate going for it, but I actually do think Envy will win that match. I actually do think Envy is going to win that match because I actually think right now they look really, really good.
Would you still consider it an upset? I mean, how do you even define an upset between?
I would consider it a relatively like. Not like I would consider it like a minor surprise more so than upset. Like kind of like, you open the door, someone's standing on the other side, like, whoa. Like, it's just like a little jump. It's like a little jump or so because like version 1 should be favored by all metrics. I think. But Envy currently looks like I just feel like they're on like one of those Envy moments where on the swing they have a new smoke player and they've unlocked the potential, they've unlocked the chakra gate leading towards going to the finals.
Gate.
Oh, hello, Balla.
Oh my God.
Balla giving away who he's predicting.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
You told me that Envy were making it through this qualifier.
You did say that, but that doesn't mean they're going to beat V1. Hey, come on now. That's not exactly what I said. I think Envy will have a road, but not through V1.
Right.
V1. I don't care if they using Thief or not. I honestly think that the way that version 1 does very well in this tournament is just literally hype Thief up so hard that he has no fear, he doesn't have to worry about anything. Like he's not gonna be playing the next qualifier anyway. So like just fucking do whatever, man. It's gonna be fine, and you'll have all the confidence in the world to just pop the frick off. But even if that doesn't happen, version 1 is good enough that they can go toe to toe to Envy. I think it's gonna be a great series, but V1 just feels so good in the last couple of weeks. Or months, I guess, since we last seen them.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Instead of going through the rest of the bracket, I want so Sentinels, V1 were expected to go deep. Envy's another team that I think people are fairly confident in. There's 4 teams that make it out of this, right?
Yes.
I'm right in saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Who's the 4th? And if you disagree with the 3 that I've given, please tell me as well. But Wyatt, who's your 4th pick?
Gen.G.
Gen.G?
I mean,
is it just easy for you?
They look nuts.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to go. I'm 100% going Gen.G.
So, do you disagree with any of the others as well? You feel like it would be a tough run for anyone else?
I don't know how the bracket exactly plays out. That's the problem. Because I think if Gen.G... Here's the thing, though. If Gen.G lose... Could you actually pull it back up, Kurt? Because it is relevant for the sake of this.
Like if they meet...
If Gen.G lose to Sentinels, they're going to face the loser of Envy version 1 before qualifiers. So that... Before the top 4.
Right.
So that is really relevant.
Okay. Right.
So that is the problem. So it might actually just be not possible for all 3 of those teams to make it, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually just think, it's just simply not possible then.
No, I think...
Right?
I think it is. I think it... Oh, fucking brackets are a
No,
nightmare,
I'm pretty
man.
sure it just simply isn't possible.
Well, then...
Pick them. You could do it like...
Wait, you can do a pick 'em on VLR?
Website.
Yeah, there are pick-ems now, actually, Kurt, which is great.
I
I don't want to do the
top.
entire bracket, but just to figure that out.
If you go to
pick 'em,
Pick'em.
oh, I think we'd need an account. Want to register for an account right now?
No, you could do it right.
Yeah.
You could.
No, it says...
Ooh.
That's fine. They just added it recently. So you can just click on version 1, I think. Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, okay. Well, let's build the bracket
way
then.
better.
Let's click Envy, XSET, Sentinels.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. I didn't realize they'd added this completely.
Shout out Enigma.
All right, so let's just quickly go through it then. Let's say version 1 wins in the upper bracket.
Yeah.
100 Thieves, yeah, sure, click on that as well. Sentinels, yeah. And then we'll go 100 Thieves and Gen.G, because that's
what I'm saying. This is what happens here.
Right.
Now, one of these teams can't make it, even though I think the hypothetical top 4 teams in this are Sentinels, Envy, Gen.G version 1.
Right.
One of them will not make it because of this game.
Yeah.
Which is pretty unfortunate for that team, and they're going to have to go through a nasty fucking stage 2 qualifier.
Is this how XSET qualify again? XSET completing their trend of
really
always qualifying?
Probably will then. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, XSET probably will.
That's the last 4.
Yeah, and then one of Envy Gen. I think Envy Gen.G and the Envy version 1 game are very difficult to call. I don't honestly want to give a pred on either of those games, or like even if it was version 1 against Gen.G, like I feel like I think version 1 are the odds-on favorites to be able to make it through, but that doesn't really mean that it's going to happen. There's still decent upset chances in all of those scenarios. Very interesting lower bracket that you get down there, because the run for 100 Thieves or XSET would not be too bad, despite the fact that, I don't feel as confident about those squads.
Low key.
Interesting, though.
You know, all this is ongoing, by the way. FPS
game.
just 2-0 G2.
Really?
Dude,
yeah.
I mean, let's move on from North America then, because
they're back.
We've had the NA teams suggest.
Also, Xiao was playing Jett.
Dude, it's crazy. The whole of Europe is absolutely bonkers right now. But
so we're not going to talk about how
all,
KCP are going to beat 100 Thieves in the lower bracket?
You think KCP are going to beat 100 Thieves? Wait a fucking second.
If KCP play 100 Thieves in the lower bracket round 1, I'm calling the upset.
You're calling the upset for KCP.
If they win, though.
But they will, right? KCP will end up playing against 100 Thieves because
hypothetically, if they both lose, which is what we're predicting,
which is very likely,
I'm going with KCP for the upset in lower round 1.
Is that because you feel like KCP are a team that's like gonna start going on the rise, or is that an indictment of 100 Thieves?
Both. A little bit of both.
Really? Okay, that's where I start disagreeing with you. I think it's just an indictment of 100 Thieves.
You don't think KCP? I like what I was seeing from KCP in this tournament.
Yeah,
honestly,
I haven't watched them.
Look at that roster, and I'm just like, you know.
I would personally be amazed that happened, because I feel like 100 Thieves are still good enough to be able to muscle it out against most of those teams, but that would be bonkers if they went out there. I just think
that conditions are so ripe for it.
That's why I'm saying it.
They're already unconfident after the sore thing, the fucking whatever. Still continues to have internet issues. They're starting to struggle with like just literally not pushing into sites, and I just feel like,
and it follows the trend of the tier 2 grinders. They're running the gauntlet of the tier 2 grinders. They had to get through Soar. Oh shit, it was so close. Then they have to get through Noble. Oh fuck, they've been dominating tier 2. And then oh god, we have to play against E United, who've been like at the top of the tier 2 tournaments. They're running the tier 2 gauntlet.
Okay.
And it can only last for so long. I think that there's a good shot for an upset there.
All right. Okay. KCP haven't really beaten anybody notable either, though, on their run so far. They've beaten Immortals and Virtuoso. So it's not like they've...
I mean, they kind of whacked Virtuoso.
Put some respect on Virtuoso.
Fair enough.
Virtuoso.
All right.
By the way,
let's...
How the fuck does Vanity wear these all day? Like,
do they
these
hurt?
are so uncomfortable. No, they're just uncomfortable. It's just like your headphones become like heavy for some reason on your head. I don't know. Maybe I just don't have enough hair.
Vanity has a very muscular skull.
Are they made out of lead? What do you mean they become heavy?
No, it just makes your headphones like you know when you put your head on a pillow and your pillow like sinks in when the pillow's too soft. Yeah. That's like what happens with the headphones on your head.
You have a soft
skull.
You
wouldn't understand because you have maybe.
Anyhow,
he hasn't got enough calcium as a child.
I do love them though. I think they're very funny. Okay, moving on to Europe. There was some drama in the European scene, and everyone loves drama. So even if you're not interested in Europe in general, you'll be interested in this shit. There was a Breeze exploit, a camera that was put behind a glitched texture, essentially. So it's Riot's fault. It's in the game, you might say, but the players know that they're not allowed to use certain exploits. There are certain exploits that are on a list. This one wasn't on the list. You can say that that's weird, that there's a list of known bugs that Riot still hasn't fixed, but okay, that's how the world works when you have a game like this. There's a list of bugs. You're not allowed to use those bugs. You're also not allowed to use certain other bugs that you know you're not allowed to use, like cameras that can't be destroyed, cameras that the other team can't see, that kind of shit. This was one of those. I believe you couldn't see the camera. You could destroy it if you shot at it, but you couldn't see it. And this EU team, Giants, used it in their match against, I can't even remember the name of the other fucking team. It was like some tier 2, tier 3 team. Can anyone remember what the name was? Fred or something? I think their name was Durf. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, they used it against some team on Breeze, and it has taken about a week for Riot and Freaks for You to come to this decision, which I think is that is not feasible. That's a awful ruling. If it takes you a week to make a ruling like this, and then they get a 1-map loss applied to their next game that they play. Not that they don't like forfeit the match that they played. There's no help for the team that lost to this exploit. It's just a punitive measure applied in the future to Giants. So they're just going to play against some like round of 5-12 immortal mix, 1-0 down in a BO3, which is nonsense to me. Like, it's an actual nonsense ruling.
Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. I could see it making sense if it was like a league and there was a regular season and it's like it affects your standings and whatever, but they're going to go through an open bracket. So they're going to play first team, like you said, and okay, potentially with the way seeding works, maybe if their seeding was punished, maybe they'd have some, like they had to go up against some random good team, but even that doesn't make sense because then you're punishing the good team for, I don't know. Yeah, it's just unacceptable. It took a week in my mind. This was obviously glitched from straight up looking at it. You can't see it there, but it can see you, right? And Giants use this like 6 out of 12 of the rounds.
Yeah,
6 out of 12. And there was one clip where it was so obvious that the guy knew, the Cypher player knew that he could see him. Like he literally takes a shot, kills one dude deep into the cave area, and then he rotates past the Viper wall, checks his camera, sees the guy past the Viper wall where it's through the glitch texture, and then goes through the wall and has perfect crosshair placement to kill the dude. So I'm like, okay, they know it's bugged. Their excuse was, oh, we don't know. We didn't know it was a bug camera. But to me, it's like obvious that they knew that it was like that.
Also, if there's any doubt in your mind, it's your responsibility to go and check with an administrator. That's your responsibility to go and do that. The problem is that the administrators presumably didn't know what to do. This ruling took so long because it probably got passed up the chain and they didn't know what kind of decision to make. And so it ends up just being a useless one for both sides. It doesn't punish and it doesn't help the team that got fucked by it. It is completely useless. And I think what is the point in having a rule like this if you can't enforce it with enough time relevancy to actually make the rule usable in any way? I mean, if they had qualified, if Giants had qualified, what would you have applied a 1-map penalty to them when they're playing in the main event? Like, it just gets more ludicrous the more you consider this as a standard ruling. It's just silly.
Yeah. To be fair, I do think that this ruling does achieve a certain level of stop using exploits because of a situation like that. Like, oh, well, I don't want to go with the map deficit down. Like,
I'd rather qualify.
What's that?
I'd rather qualify. If they're going to take a week and then apply a map punishment, yeah, I'll take that over not qualifying. I don't think it stops you using bugs particularly.
Yeah, actually, you're kind of right in that case. I was like thinking like, oh, usually when there's punishments, you're trying to see is the incentive to cheat or the incentive to use exploits, I guess I should say, not necessarily. Is it enough to be okay with the punishment? Yeah. And the way that you frame it seems like, but in general, I think people see this and like, oh, I don't want to mess with like. Well,
I don't think this decision would ever be done again. I feel like the big takeaway from this is that the tournament administrators, the people who are handing out these rulings, need to be on their game in terms of knowing what is and isn't an exploit and being able to quickly check certain things and having that maybe game knowledge to know what's going on in those scenarios and to be able to hand out the punishments quickly and fairly. Because this one was a farce.
I'm just surprised it took a week. That's a big thing. I could understand maybe a couple days, but a week? A week is a ridiculous time frame.
I mean, how long was it? It wasn't quite a full week. How long has it been since the game?
It was
a full week?
5 days or something like that. Right. I know that the bug was reported the day after on Wednesday. Like the post went up on Wednesday and the game happened on Tuesday.
Right, so like 6 days.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Wild. Okay.
That's pretty crazy.
That is ridiculous, isn't it? On the other side of things as well, before we dive deep in... Actually, I'm going to save this until later. The European teams as well, though... no, I'm going to go into it now. Fuck it. We're going to take a small deviation away from Europe, and we're going to talk about the big roster move that's been happening across other regions as well. Lakia got poached from Vision Strikers, and... got poached from Newturn, 2 Vision strikers. And we're using the word poached here because he's been directly taken from one team. There's probably some trade agreement or something. I don't fucking know. I'm not implying that there was bad manners from Vision strikers here, but he has been literally taken from the team that's been doing the best at the moment in Korea and being added to the team that was previously doing the best in Korea. This is a big move. People will remember Lakia, the enormous plays that he had at Reykjavik too. This is a big shift in the top Korean scene.
Yeah, I mean, it just poses the question to me: who the fuck are Vision Strikers going to field as their starting 5? I have what do they have? Like they have a Baker. They have a fucking. How many players do they have in the roster? A dozen?
7.
7? They have 7 players on the roster.
Yeah,
That is wild.
That is the only question. I mean, they have managed to just slurp up all of the Korean talent into one team. But what do you do? I don't know. I guess we'll see what they do with all of them.
This is a time-honored Korean roster building tradition, though, is to build rosters that are so unwieldy they are just useless at times. This is a time-honored tradition, though. Is like we need to have all these flexible players. What's that? We never have enough time to field any of them or develop them properly? Well, guess we're going to have to get rid of like half the roster now. But don't worry. Next year, we're going to build it twice as big.
They also, I mean, a lot of Korean players, coaches, the esports culture comes from games where having big rosters is valuable too. In Overwatch League and that kind of stuff, you want big rosters that you can be flexible with. So I think this might just be potentially a different approach too. Now, it might just be the same shit you see everywhere else where they have 7 players and then they just cut 2 and they just keep a 5-man roster. Same thing that recently was going on with XSET when we were wondering if they were running 6 people. Eventually boomed Heretics, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But they have the pieces here to make a good team.
I do like this. I like what Vision Strikers are doing, though. Despite it being a bit chaotic right now due to the number of players, I like the I like the smaller regions in Valorant trying to get their super teams together for future events.
Hell yeah.
Because this is looking like it's going to be a super team.
And Newton were not a super team. I mean, but also the players that performed, I mean, not the players that performed the best, but some of the players that performed the most consistently across the whole event they're more veteran talents too. Whereas when you try to create super teams, you tend to leave the veteran talent on the outside because you're going for like the cracked people, So that I feel is potentially a downfall for Vision Strikers. We'll have to see how that ends up working.
But this is what, if we harken back to previous Vision Strikers conversations, I don't know. I'm excited about this actually. I like, and I'm glad that they have Glow as a coach. And I think if Vision Strikers can exist in a space where they have 5 of the most talented players in Korea in regards to their actual skill level, but then you have the mind behind like the sort of I don't know what Vision Strikers are known for. They're strats, like they're one-off strats. If you have the mind of the guy who creates that, working for the team behind the scenes, but then you have 5 super skilled players who can win rounds off of their actual skill, but then you throw in every game they're going to win 2 odd rounds off of just using some strat or some little thing that no one has seen before. That seems like a good recipe to win.
It's kind of what Newton already had, though. I think they were already using some really unique creative stuff for sure.
Yeah, but you're just taking the skill up a level. Is the idea.
Yeah,
essentially, right? You're taking the skill up a notch, but then you also have that on top of it.
Weird situation for Newton to be in as well, because there were talks about Solo and Perry looking for retirement, and now they've lost Lakia, who was one of their best talents too. So Solo and Perry have been playing for that team. They've been playing in most recent games, but what do you do?
That's why I hate this. And again, it could just be like Lakia's his contract ran out and he's signed with Vision Strikers or something like that. But doesn't this just kill Newturn?
It feels like it probably would, especially with the veteran talent looking to maybe leave. I don't know.
And if Newturn dies, then what the hell are we playing for in Korea? Like, is there anybody?
You mean you need the competition of 2 teams?
You need the competition of 2 teams. That obviously brings viewership, but it also makes the teams that are coming out of that region better. If there's nobody for Vision Strikers to fight against, then Are we gonna have another new turn story at Berlin? Or even down the line? Like that scares the shit out of me with all the struggles that Korea and Valorant has been having with how many teams have closed down, with how many free agent rosters have given up. I don't know the name specifically, but I've been looking at the news and just it's been negative, 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 negative. Outside of like we got into the top 10 PC bang statistics. Everything else has been negative out of Korea.
Well, the other counterpoint to that argument as well, though, is that Newton didn't have another team to be competitive against. It was just Newton. They didn't drop a map in their qualification process. That's like the most dominant that you can be within the region. The closest second team was Vision Strikers, but they were flumping at the time. So maybe there has to be a bit of a give and take between the two. Like maybe if Newton can hold on and maybe bring someone in that can fill Lakia's spot, maybe they can both then be at a good level instead of it only being Newton or only being Vision Strikers.
Yeah. They did bring in 10X, who's like some hype around him. I don't know much about him at all, but both teams did go, what was it, 3-0 in their groups of the open qualifier. So
yeah.
Maybe it is like completely not what I'm thinking, and it's actually creating parity, like you're saying. But I don't know. I really wanted to see New Turn continue with that roster because they just made history at the first Valorant LAN, and now that roster's not them anymore.
Yeah, which is wild, right? Lakia leaves the best team in Korea to go to an attempt at being the best team in Korea. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I was under the impression as well that the new turn we're going to get dude from CS. I can't remember his name right now. Zine. I don't know how you pronounce it.
I don't know enough.
XIGN. I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Yeah, but I was under the impression that they were going to get him.
For another 6-man roster.
Premier. Well,
maybe with
replacing Lakia.
Oh, well, I think they already got 10X, didn't they?
Oh, they already. Okay, well, I guess it will be a 6-man roster then.
Well, maybe one of the veterans will leave.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
Theoretically, it could be a good thing though, because it's like they were at Reykjavik so recently that diffusing out players from that team could theoretically elevate some of the other teams, because they could be like, here's what we learned when we played against these squads, right? Like it could be sort of like a brain drain type of situation, which could be actually good for the region long term, potentially.
It's a brain donation, a brain loan rather than a brain drain.
Yeah. Well, a brain drain could be you're draining it from that team to go to another team, right? It could still work. It's just within the same region, right? So like theoretically there are positives that could be inferred. Who knows if that will actually work that way, but
well, Balla's all fired up about this, but Balla was also really fired up about what was going on with free agency over in Europe. He wanted to give you guys a little 1v1. Wanted to take you down. Little coach, because Balla's got an ISO to run.
Get the ISO. Let me get the ISO.
Let's talk about free agent teams. Often rapidly, the crowd favorites, the local heroes, and sometimes the people's champions. Let's go through memory lane real quick and
What a
there you
beautiful
go. Let's
ISO.
get into Europe. There we go. Now that our mic's back on. So yeah, we've got interesting situation over in Europe with the free agency scene, but the tier 1 teams are currently competing, like literally as we're recording. So what we wanted to do is pull up the main event bracket, and we'll go through some of the pick'ems. And as we go through the pick'ems, we'll explain via like results that have come up as to why we feel good about certain teams or not good about other teams, that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I think G2 particularly
they look really good.
They were looking insane. Mixwell in that match against Fnatic, his lurks through shower. I mean, he straight up won them like 5 rounds in a row at the end of that game. So I think G2 have a really good chance of beating
FPX. Is there a pick'em page for this one as well, or are the pick'ems kind of closed because of this?
Yeah, it's closed.
Can we still click on it?
No.
Bollocks. Okay, well, we'll just do it from the bracket as we were doing before then. Yeah, so Fnatic came in, they got upset by G2. G2 looked really good there. Fnatic are messing around with all of their different compositions.
I mean, Fnatic were doing all types of wacky shit.
They just had a really close win over Liquid as well. Losing one of the maps, they had to pull back that final map from being like, what were they, like 10-7, 10-6 down? They had a significant comeback on Haven to be able to close this out. Fnatic are definitely in an experimental phase right now. They're trying to figure out a bunch of different comps. They're running triple controller on Bind. Boaster's been hitting the...
They're trying to find themselves.
What's the word?
Ganja?
Yeah, but it has to begin with B, Avast. The Boaster Blunt.
Yeah, the Boaster Blunt would work. That would work pretty good.
They've been hitting the Boaster Blunt.
I mean,
so yeah, this Fnatic doesn't look like they're in the same form as they were at Reykjavik, though. If we were talking about Sentinels earlier, coming in, smashing immediately, this looks like Fnatic going through teenage years, trying to develop and become good enough for Berlin. But it takes some like work, you know. They're really changing almost everything for this.
Yeah.
You don't agree? You think they look like their form at Reykjavik?
I don't want to classify it though as like they. I guess I want to make clear that, well, at least for me, I don't think they're that far off. I think that they're just trying some new things. But I don't like. I don't feel that it's a proper classification to make it seem like they're that far off. Like, I think G2 were just kind of. I think G2 were kind of just on one in that game to some extent.
I mean G2 looked good.
I mean, I was, you know, in all seriousness, Mixwell did literally just win them like 5 rounds in a row at the end of that Bind game.
If they can get him on Viper, he looks insane.
And Fnatic did have some cool ideas with that comp that they were running, where they were like double executing on both sites. It was,
yes.
But my only caveat to that was it was like early on in that game, G2 were flanking and exposing that they were not running a Sentinel, and they were taking advantage of that, but then they never really did it again until way later in the half. Like, I don't think G2 particularly did much to expose the comp that Fnatic were using on that attack, but I still thought it was a cool comp, and I thought they had some cool ideas with it. But then towards the end of this game, Mixwell just took over, and then on map 2, I mean, I think everyone on G2 to some extent were just contributing crazy moments of fragging. Like late in the game, they won an all sheriff buy where it was just magical shots from Kellogg's. Avova had an insane game
that was
throughout.
Arten, right?
I mean, I think they were kind of just on fire. Like that second map, G2 were just doing these fast sight hits. The utility timings were great. Like
they ran a lot of fakes as well, actually.
Yeah, like I love the setups. Like you'd have Kellogg's getting in deep off the dash. They'd have a Sky Flash for close sight. Paranoia's hitting backside. Kellogg's is in deep. Like their timings were nice. They were aggressive. The individuals were shining. I thought G2 were looking good in that respect. So I don't think it was so insane that Fnatic lost. I don't know.
But that might lead you to believe that G2 could have easily got the win here over FPX, and FPX have just right now beaten them 2-0. FPX also lost to Guild, and they looked sloppy in that game too. So I would have been on board with it. I would have said, yeah, sure, G2 have got definitely chances of being able to win against FPX. They might even be favored. It's hard to tell with such a new roster, but, you know, that's feasible. Yeah. And now they've come out and beaten them here. It just feels to me like the EU team is in flux.
It was like 13-4s.
Really?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
they rolled
damn.
them.
God, they
Let's make judgments off the stats.
Stat Andes, let's go.
I mean, there's what can you do here?
And one of those maps,
stuff.
Shao was playing Jett. He was playing Jett on like Icebox.
But it feels like EU is just experimenting right now. We'll have more thoughts about this game, I'm sure, when we've actually watched it. But if we go back to the bracket itself, I feel like any team could go on a run here. These games are really close. I mean, apart from that one, which you just saw, but we thought G2 would have a chance to win it. The only team I feel great about, and the team that I would predict to run all the way through this, is Ascend. Yeah. I feel fucking great about Ascend. This new Ascend with CNED and Zeke, and then Keyless as like the third guy. Okay, the Rix is not the strongest team in the world, so you'd expect them to easily get the victory here. But this team is popping. They have unbelievable individual talent. Even their supportive players are going to have big games like Starkso and Bone Cold. Bone Cold IGLing, I think, has been really good when he's taken over. And the team has so much proactivity. This team is going to the fucking moon, man. If you ask me to pick a team that I thought from EU might be able to win at Berlin, it's real early days, but these would be the team that I put the stocks in.
I mean, I think it's also helping Ascend right now.
Sell your Ascend stocks immediately.
I think what's also helping Ascend right now, though, is what you were getting at with a lot of the other teams being experimental. They seem like one of the teams that they just have an idea as to what they want to play. They're running just good comps. Like
they didn't really shuffle that many players either.
Right. Yeah, that as well. But they're not trying to reinvent the fucking game like some of these other teams. I mean, you have like the Breach Icebox no Sage theory coming through. There's so much EU Breach, and it's pain.
It's very weird.
There was a period in time where I wanted to see a lot more Breach. It's not now. It isn't now. I've seen too much Breach.
Why the hell is it? Just throw some Breach at it. Where's the Breach at? And then fucking Breach gets buffed, and Wyatt's like, no, not now.
No, it's too much. No, it is too much Breach. But it's also
Breach on Icebox, Breach on Breeze. It's like
also I think when you're running with other agents that are meta right now, like Viper, I think Sky is just better. Like it's just more effective with the Viper utility. It's comboing the flashes with the walls, etc. I think that's a huge factor where Breach
people have been sucked in by this fat fault line, the girth on the fault line from Breach. Just being able to lock down certain areas, plus the value you can get out of the ultimate compared to how you could before. It just seems to be a bit more consistent, perhaps.
Yeah, that being said, though, I really like Ascend's comps. I think what they're running, very nice. Very, very nice. Like, I like their comp on Haven. The players are just playing shit that they're comfortable with at the end of the day, too.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have CNET on Jett. He's going to pop off. Zeke is going to play Reyna. He's going to play Phoenix. He's going to create a lot of space and, try and enter. I like how he was working Haven on Phoenix. It was excellent. And I like that Haven comp specifically as well, where they're just throwing the sky with it. Cool. I like where Ascend are at. Their players are really good. The roles make sense. Their comps are good. They definitely look like they're the team I have the most faith in because they seem like the one team in this that I can kind of rely on their consistent level right now. You know what I mean?
If FPX beat them, are you straight back on the copium?
No, no. This doesn't matter. What is this qualifying for? We're qualifying for a qualifier.
Yeah.
I've seen FPX qualify for a qualifier before.
Okay.
So no, not yet.
Preds. I want Preds from Avast and Balla. I don't think we would have predicted the bracket to exactly go like this because, the favorites have won apart from... You could probably say FPX were the favorites in the game, but they didn't look like it recently. But anyway, upper semis. And in general, the top 4 teams that you would expect to go through at this point. I think that's a better way of doing it rather than doing the whole bracket. Top 4 teams. Avast, who are you looking at to be able to make it through this?
I mean, I'm still feeling Fnatic myself, so I take Fnatic. I would honestly, I saw parts of the game when they played it versus G2. I'm not gonna lie, I think FPX are building to once again dominate the qualifiers and then fail at the end. So they're gonna make it through. And then 2 more teams from this. I mean, more than likely, like, how does this bracket work out exactly? It's like,
there we go. So who did G2 end up playing against though? Because that's the team I'm interested in.
They would end up playing the loser of Fnatic Guild, right?
Right. Okay. So you might have like a G2 guild in the bottom. I mean, you could get a G2 Fnatic, honestly.
You could. I'm feeling Fnatic. So I mean, I think I would still feel decent enough to go for G2. You know, I feel like I would still take G2. I feel like they got shellacked by FPX, but it's a new roster and they're likely going to learn from that. And I still feel overall pretty decent about this current roster. I feel like they've actually rounded out like a lot of their problems, and they've performed a lot better recently. So as long as they can put up like a similar performance, like their core players, I think they're going to be okay versus Guild. But I could see. I mean, honestly, it's so tough to pick with you because a lot of these teams are so close. But yeah, I'd still take G2 because fuck it, I'll take G2, FPX, Fnatic, and then Ascend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you on the same kind of page where you still believe in G2 despite the fact that they got beaten by FPX here, Balla? What's the feel for the lower bracket run?
Lower bracket run. So yeah, I think G2 no. No, not G2.
No.
Not G2.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Wait,
G2. They have
who's your top
Nuki.
4?
They have Nuki. Holy shit, they have Nuki. He's so
Nuki's
good. Like he's my
incredible.
hero. He's so fucking good. So okay, Fnatic. I think FPX is going to beat Ascend, unlike what you guys are thinking.
Okay.
I think Ascend will come in after that. I do not see Liquid making it through. I think Ascend will beat BDS, I guess, is who will call for that. G2 versus Guild. Oh man, they have Nuki, but Guild has Yassine.
Yassine has been playing Jett recently as well. Yassine
fuck
Ray's
that
one
shit.
trick has been playing Jett recently.
G2
Dude,
then.
He looked good. He looked pretty good on it. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of these EU teams are starting to like really get experimental. They are playing unusual stuff compared to what they've been playing for like the last year. It feels like they're really
I especially
growing.
like teams that have not had Jett players to try to force somebody into that role. I really like that idea. It's funny because we were like kind of criticizing 100 Thieves kind of for that, but still, even that kind of makes sense. I like that, but I just don't think that that's ready. Whereas Kellogg's is a ready-made Jett, who's been opping as well.
Yeah, his
And
old
then they have Nuki and Evova, man. It's G2. It's G2 over Guild.
All right. So you actually have the same top 4 then, the Avast set.
I think
Have you too? Is
Well,
everyone
the
just
thing
believing
is,
in
well,
G2?
though, it's not like the NA bracket where you're going to get that weird matchup in the lower. Like the paths actually work.
I mean, the paths only work if you think Guild and Fnatic are not tough teams for G2 to get through. I think they could lose both of those.
I think.
Well, like they could lose against either of those teams.
Yes,
And I don't
but
think it's a
mean,
guarantee that Guild gets dropped down, honestly.
I don't think it's a guarantee either. I'm trying to think about with the way the bracket goes. I mean, I'm feeling good about Ascend. I still think Fnatic should win this upper semi. It might be another close one, but I would predict that they will win. I mean, yeah, I think it could be very close, but I would go Fnatic.
Why are you thinking that they're going to lose? I don't understand. Just because they're experimenting?
Dude, this guy is getting paid off by David Beckham is why.
Okay, well, I mean, first of all, it's fucking coming home, and David Beckham's going to have the buff from England beating Denmark later on today, and by the time this episode goes out, England will have lost, and I'm going to look like a fucking idiot, or I'm going to look like a genius. But the thing with Guild is, they are a super solid team, and if you make mistakes against them and you play sloppily, then they can punish that, because they're a good, solid team. That's how they got the win over FPX. FPX are playing a bit sloppy. They're not playing at their top level, and so Guild dispatched them 2-0. It's not 2-1. But it's not necessarily because Guild were like popping out of control. You know what you're getting in every game, I feel, with Guild. They're just decent. They're a good level team. Fnatic they really have been extremely, not just experimental, but when you're a team that has that much structure and then you change things, you lose the structure. You lose the, like, everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And so when you watch them play, they don't have the same coordination that they were previously playing with, because they aren't all like individually intuitive players. They play because they know the structure really well. They're better than the former roster for that.
The
but
G2 game.
I think there's a chance of Guild winning that.
Yeah. I think that's Fnatic's strength, though, is literally changing things and being really, really structured. As time goes on, that structure just explodes into fantastic play overall. Like, and honestly, this morning, the game against Liquid, like we caught the tail end of it. I was watching it even before that. Like that game, they fixed some of the holes. The big thing against G2 on binds, which they still lost it against Liquid, but they weren't running Sky, so they couldn't flash through the Viper walls, and the breach flashes were often getting caught behind a Viper wall because there was 2 out on the map. They kind of fixed some of those issues. There wasn't as much timing stuff, and they didn't look like that Fnatic that's kind of fumbling around where, oh, well, the execute is working this way, and now I don't know what to do. Like,
but Balla, they also hadn't lost bind domestically for months. And then they lose bind back to back after changing it. And also, Haven was their second best map, and they've changed that massively. They've gone and just copied Sentinel's composition too. It's like they're taking the stuff that they were great at.
Take? What is that?
What? No, I mean they lost the Sentinels and they start playing Jett Phoenix with an Astra.
Yeah.
They're literally trying to replicate the same kind of style. I feel. Moving way away from, like, they were playing the
thing is,
they were playing the totally different compositions there with the Killjoy and stuff, and having the Astra like play over by the
I think there was actually kind of something there with the bind. I think that the breach was the problem, and there was a couple ways to
breach. They just added a Sky.
I think there was a couple problems with it. I mean, I think the breach was the main problem, but off that, they didn't have a duelist to ever do anything off of the breach. So the breach would flash, and you would see Boaster running around on Astra on defense, trying to capitalize off the breach flash, and the G2 players would just run away. Like, there was no... It was hard to capitalize off the breach util. Like, there were moments where the breach was stunning 2 people with a fault line, and no one could do anything about it, because they're just... So...
And then there's other moments where they're stunning 2 people, and they're fucking, like, getting another grab well, and the guy's just dead. Like, there was some also amazing...
No, there were some great moments. There were some great moments.
Those were on attack. The good moments came on attack with the breach fall lines. It was on defense that the breach was not generating any value. I felt. But there was definitely, I think they were mining at something. I think there was something there.
No, don't get me wrong.
Especially on attack.
They're going to be in the right direction eventually. I just think that they're in a bit of a wobbly state right now because they're figuring some stuff out. And Guild are fucking good.
Okay,
I'm the only Guild simp in the world.
I'm going with Fnatic in the upper bracket.
Okay,
I'm going to
enough.
go Ascend, and then it's fucking boring, but yeah, Fnatic, Ascend, G2, FPX.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's boring, but it looks like it's probably going to be reality.
Dude, people are having the G2 copy, and they ain't getting
70 fucking K viewers this morning for Fnatic Liquid game. So boring's good.
Who are G2 losing to? Guild?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think.
Dude, I know this Guild shit is just wild. It's out of control.
We have just written Liquid off. I mean, they're just
fuck yeah. They're gonna lose to BDS. They're gonna lose to BDS.
They're gonna lose to BDS. You think?
I think it's quite. I think it's possible.
I mean,
I don't know if they're going to 100% lose to BDS.
They nearly lost to BDS last time. It took Link having those incredible clutches to be able to get them through the qualifier and beat them.
It is crazy, though.
There's good teams in EU. There's good teams left, right, and center.
They made second, and they're just not even in the conversation right now. That's crazy.
The path is very difficult for all of these teams, but it is. I mean, it's an interesting region, and more people are starting to watch
it. It's 5-2 split. Okay, it's only defense, so. But oh my god, both sides are playing breach. Oh, actually, Wyatt.
He used a trip right now. It really is a trip.
There better not be any Vipers in that server.
Yeah. But
there's one Viper.
I don't want to get too deep into EU because it's literally happening right now.
Yeah,
so anything we talk about is going to be irrelevant as well. So let's instead watch us petting the dog. Let's go on to the most important segment of the week. Every single week, it's always here. It's always insane. You know what it is? It's Wyatt's weekly award.
Insane.
It's Wyatt's weekly award.
Wrestling. Yeah,
it's a wrestling trophy.
The
wrestling trophy.
This is actually this is symbolic of who I'm giving the award to this week. Okay. Honestly, I think this accurately represents it. If you want to look at the bottom guy, the guy who's picking this dude up and about to just slam him into the ground, the guy on the bottom is a physical representation of teams like Noble, Dark Zero, KCP.
Oh yeah.
And the top part is the tier 1 Valorant scene. That's that right there. That's Wardell. You know what I mean? That's Wardell. That's Hiko.
That's
So,
Immortals.
yeah,
NRG.
yeah. Shot up. Yep.
Yeah.
EU. I mean, you know, EU, not EU. That's so. You know what I'm saying?
No.
EU.
Wait,
not,
United?
not Europe, but you, the guy, the player of the game on NRG.
Oh, you mean Asu?
Yeah, Ace, yeah, big streamer. Plays a lot of Valorant on stream. So this is a general award for it's going to the tier 2 NA Valorant scene.
Okay.
For the grind.
For the grind.
Dedication.
I can see it in his eyes. Yeah,
Yep.
he's been putting in the work. He's looking bulky, muscled, like it. Pretty
There
good.
they are. All of the tier 2 teams we love the most. They've been putting in the work past
TLC.
couple months, every tournament. You got, you know, your Nerd Streets, you got your VCSs, etc. They're playing all the tournaments.
I
The
fucking
teams have
love
been working really hard.
37.
Yep. Team
Yeah.
DNA Diff,
Time in.
the Fortnite fraggers.
Professional molders. I need to be on that team.
Professional baking company.
I don't know. We're getting really
I mean,
down there at this
so
point.
my point being
You're
though,
so down to earth.
my point being, I mean, we've made it to rock bottom. And it just
Fun
keeps
game,
going.
yes.
It just keeps going.
Yeah.
But just a shout out to those teams because, yeah, they've been putting in a lot of work over the past few months. They're upsetting these top teams that are getting, you know, the teams that are getting the salaries, the teams that have all the support behind them, the staff.
Yeah.
And just through sheer dedication, they're, you know, they're
Rising up the
they're
rankings.
rising up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to the NA Tier 2 scene.
Shout out. All right. Pretty good. Also, shout out to our new member, Kurt. Who do we need to welcome to member? Because we have a new member.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, we
exciting.
got one new member this week. It is Keo, who joined 4 days ago. Welcome to member.
Yeah.
Welcome to member.
Woo. Welcome to member.
Welcome to member.
Welcome,
and yeah,
Kia. After we stomped him in Boom TV Cup, he thought we should be checked out after.
wait, did we stomp him in the cup? Very
I
possibly.
assume so. Keo, yeah, it's Keo.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, gave him the absolute business. All right. That does it for Plat Valorant episode 51, was that? Yeah.
Yep.
So wait until next week, and then we'll have one for every week of the year for the year that Valorant has been out. Roughly. That it kind of works. It nearly does. In the meantime, go check out the rest of what's happening. We're gonna have another back chat for you this week. We missed last week, or this week, whatever. We missed the previous week, but we've got a back chat coming up for you next week as well. So stay tuned to that. Subscribe to the channel. Catch everything that's going on. We'll see you next time.